news happens in Philly, we have you covered. Live updates, press conferences, insight, perspective, and your reaction. This is 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. WPEN and WPEN HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia. A Beasley Media Group station. Broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios. Powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Bob Cooney. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Welcome in. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to Bob Cooney on Middays. Great to have you with us. Hope you enjoyed the morning show with John Kincaid, Andrew Salchunas. A lot of great information there, a lot of guests, a lot of stuff going on in the Philadelphia sports world for a Tuesday. You got to love that. We're so glad that you joined us today. Give you an outlook of what today's show's going to look like. We have 11 o'clock. Keith Pompey is going to join us, talk about the Sixers. Tough road trip coming up. And I was texting with some people in the league and with the Sixers last night. They are leaving. They're probably in the air right about now. Somebody told me they had a 9:30 flight this morning. So they're headed out for a tough road trip there. But Keith's going to join us to let us know where the team may be. At 1 o'clock, Dr. John Giannini, you might remember the name, longtime Division I coach, actually won a Division III national championship at Rowan, where he is now the athletic director. Then it was Glassboro State. Then, of course, went on to a really successful career at Maine, then here at LaSalle for a long time. I want to talk to John about the state of college basketball because John is also an analyst for NBC and CBS and did a slew of college games this year. He is so good. So good that when I was talking to Fran Dunphy a couple of weeks ago, he told me that when he needed a scouting report on a team, he told his assistant coaches to call Giannini because his preparation is so good for games that he calls that they wanted to get some scouting reports from him. So just an outlook on college basketball because as I told you yesterday, I'm kind of disappointed in myself how I'm just not into the college basketball scene nationally, this being Sunday being Selection Sunday, this week being the first week of the tournament. It's just not hitting me the way it was. So I wanted to talk to somebody. Maybe you're the same way. I wanted to talk to somebody about that. So John's going to join us at 1 o'clock. Very, very interesting person. So he'll have some thoughts on that. Also, as I teased on social media, I am hoping to get a phone call shortly from someone that is going to give us an update in the 76ers organization about a knee. That's all I can say, Ray. That's all I can say. It's about a knee. Draw your own conclusions. They may be right. They may be wrong. But we hope to hear from this person shortly. So a big day on tap, Ray. Before I get into outlining what we're going to do today, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, Bob.
Yeah?
How are you?
I'm doing well. You were at the 76ers game last night?
I was.
Yeah, good times.
Got scared there for a couple minutes, but hey, they persevered. They won the game.
Yeah, we were
All
going
is well.
back and forth about the Sixers while you were there last night, so we have some interesting thoughts. But to outline the show today, as far as kind of what's going on in the sports world here in Philadelphia, of course, the Hassan Reddick thing, he was due $1 million on March 15th. It's been pushed back. Much speculation going on that means it looks like a trade is, I don't want to say imminent, but in the works or they're looking for one. You just gave it the thumbs up. Or thumbs out. I should say
thumbs out, not thumbs up. I do not want that man gone, but I have a very strong feeling he is.
I think it's egregious. I really do. I think it's egregious. And it goes back to the line that I told you yesterday and I brought up last week when someone was asked about a shutdown corner or an edge rusher. Well, guess what? An edge rusher shuts down every wide receiver if he's getting sacks. A corner only shuts down one guy. You're going to give up your best defensive football player from a year ago, from the last 2 years, you're going to just let that fly. And I understand business and all that, but if there's one thing about Howie Roseman, does money ever come into play? And now you're going to let it come into play with Hassan Reddick. Sorry, I'm not good enough with huff and sweat and hoping a Nolan Smith, fingers crossed. And don't give me, oh, you hit it in the draft. I don't know. I don't feel good about it at all. So we'll get into that a little bit more. We have some cuts that we're going to play in this segment as Jeff McClain from the Inquirer joined the morning show. So we'll hear what he had to say about it. Kenny Pickett talked yesterday. I didn't really bring this up yesterday, Ray, but I do like the Kenny Pickett signing. So I don't know where you guys feel out there about all this, about Hassan Reddick, about Kenny Pickett. I like it. It's not going to cost you much of anything. You have a guy that has started many games in this league in his one season, a guy that the Eagles were interested in before. As we know, the famous Howie Roseman looking down with the binoculars. He was looking at Kenny Pickett. So there's that. Jalen Hurts did something really nice where, correct me if I have this right, Ray. I'm pretty sure I do. I just saw it before we came on. A very kind act. He paid for the funeral of a football player from a rival high school of where he grew up. I always love to see those types of stories that, he noticed it, he reached out, he took care of that. So really good on Jalen Hurts. And I think something that we have to hit on a little bit later if we get time, kind of quietly, Driscoll and Opeta are gone from this offensive line. They're getting really thin there, Ray. Very, very thin. So we'll have to see how that plays out. That tells me something about the draft. And I think it's directly related to the Hassan Reddick stuff that bothers me. So what do you think about the Eagles currently? Where are they? Are you upset? Or do you understand the business decisions if they go down the way it looks like they're going to? Your 76ers last night, I thought it was a really good win. Miami Heat comes in here, a team they were tied for in the Eastern Conference standings. But like Nick Nurse told me on Sunday, and we played it yesterday, one of the beats brought up to him, said, is this an important game? Miami, you're tied with them in the standings. And he just said, every game's important to us. That's where we are right now. We can't look at, this game's more important and that's not. We hardly have any players, and I'm speaking on Nick Nurse. They have a lot of injuries. They need wins. They need to get them anywhere they can. And last night was one of those. And great effort from Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre, Kyle Lowry, with some really clutch baskets. And Nick Nurse called this on Sunday. He said, look, watch him outside shooting going down the stretch because I think he's getting his legs back. That was good for the Sixers last night. Something Ray and I texted about during the game, and I'm going to put it out there, and I want to know what you guys think, 610-632-0975. Are the Sixers teaching something that is really bothering? And it's been talked about before, and with another player, and now I'm starting to see it with someone else and seeing way too much of it. I'll bring up to date on what that subject could be. This road trip, Phoenix, Lakers, Clippers, Kings. Not good. That's going to be a real tough one for them moving forward. So, like I said, we'll talk to Keith Pompey at 11 o'clock about the state of the Sixers and where they may be and what he thinks moving forward this team may be looking at as far as playoff berth. Flyers tonight on your very own station, 97.5 The Fanatic. They host Toronto. The biggest news coming out of Flyerdom right now, you gave that letter to that guy, and you put it on his chest, and it's the C letter, and it's so important in hockey, like this is the guy, that's the leader of the room and all that. I've told many people many times on these airways, leadership to me isn't something that you really should seek out. It's something that should happen naturally. Anyway, Sean Couturier was given the C by the organization. Sean Couturier is fighting for minutes with John Tortorella now. And Tortorella just came out and said, hey, you're not playing good enough. You're not going to play. So that's an interesting. Let's look at that. What's the outlook for your Flyers moving forward? Phillies, two things right off the bat. They had two games yesterday. Bryce Harper didn't play in either one of them. And now I think it's been 4 games all, on the weekend, yesterday. He's not playing because he has some back soreness. He's had back soreness before, and people talked about the violence of his swing. It might be something he has to live with because I don't think he's going to change his swing. But my question to you is playing first base more of a hindrance to that back? Is that going to lend to maybe more back problem for Bryce Harper? Are they going to have to relook at it? Is it a case where maybe you have to DH him sometimes in order to get him out of the field so that he's not in that always ready position of a first baseman, which, unlike an outfielder, is bent down, is bent at the knees, hunched down to get down on a ground ball, unlike an outfield where you're kind of standing up straighter and maybe it's easier on the back. So we have that. We have a lot more going on today that we want to take a look at. But, Ray, I want to jump into what Jeff McClain said this morning on the morning show. And he was asked about Hassan Reddick yesterday, was due a $1 million payout on March 15th. It's been pushed back until the contract negotiations are settled. So contract negotiations, does that mean with someone else? Does that mean with the Eagles? Does it mean he's going? We'll go to cut number one where he talks about Reddick's asking price.
My guess is that they're just trying to work out the trade. That doesn't mean that there isn't any hope that maybe something can get done, but, it just sounds like Hassan is pretty much adamant that he wants to receive a certain amount in terms of a new deal for what he believes he's worth on the market, and the Eagles aren't really willing to pay that. You saw with Josh Sweat, he wanted similar accommodations. He ended up having to really kind of take essentially a pay cut because I think the Eagles have done a pretty good job of gauging the market for these guys. And, while I think Reddick is a very good player, obviously, double-digit sacks in each of the last 4 seasons, the second straight Pro Bowl. He is getting up there a little bit, and, no player is perfect. And I think that, on top of the fact that the team has to be willing to pay or restructure his contract to get him kind of closer to what he wants to do, they also have to give up draft picks to get him from the Eagles. So, this is something that's going to take a little bit of a process, I guess, and that's why they both agreed to push back the roster bonus date.
I was driving in listening to that interview this morning, and it just aggravates. And Andrew came right on and said, yep, looks like he's gone. John agreed. I can't believe this. We're talking money, and we're talking Howie Roseman. He's great at it. You can't figure this out? Is Hassan Reddick asking for that much money, more than the $15 million a year that he signed when he came here, 3 for $45, I believe it was? What are we talking about here? Your defense was horrible at the end of the year. You're literally giving up your best player. So you're convinced, Ray, and maybe other people out there are, that this is a done deal? I don't know. I'm not ready to give up yet. I don't think it can be that egregious. Look, Jonathan Gannon was in here 2 years ago. What kind of a defense does Jonathan Gannon play? It's under the blanket of Vic Fangio. We knew that when he got here. The Eagles were open and honest about this. The Eagles wanted to get Vic Fangio in here, and it didn't work out. After Gannon left, you're talking about the same umbrella here. Well, under that umbrella, when Jonathan Gannon was here, you're talking about a defense that posted 70 sacks. Are you changing things that much that your leading sack guy you're just going to get rid of? I don't think Hassan Reddick had an Hassan Reddick year last year, but he still had 11 sacks. And I just find it egregious that it's come to, no. Please don't tell me you got Huff and he's going to replace a Hassan Reddick. That to me is no. Josh Sweat, you reworked kind of his contract for this coming season, so he's going to be here. Nolan Smith, Nolan Smith, it reminds me of Nakobe Dean all over again from last year. Oh no, he'll be okay. We'll just plug him in there and let him play. You don't know anything about him. You didn't play him a whole lot last year, so. I don't know. If this is a done deal, if it's just a foregone conclusion that, he's going to be out of here, I'm thoroughly disappointed. I don't know about you out there, but I am thoroughly disappointed if that's the case. All right, another thing that Jeff McClain talked about, number 3, Ray, was that Hassan Reddick might be the one with the leverage in all this.
Now, I don't know. I mean, can they afford to even bring him back? Maybe Hassan has a little leverage here, and maybe that Eagles will have to just take something for him at this point. Because, again, they don't want to bring him back on his current contract because the cap hit is so high. I guess they could theoretically, but from everything from my understanding is that they would rather work on something just to kind of get the numbers down to what they want or what they think he's worth. And I'm sure they'd be willing to even give him another year like they did with Darius Slay, a year or two like they did with Darius Slay last year. But this is increasingly what we've seen with a lot of these older players and the contracts the Eagles give them, because they push money in the future. It puts them in a situation where they want to rework these contracts, but the players don't, they want a little more security in terms of what they get, the guarantee. So we'll see how it works out. This does buy them some time.
Look, I understand players wanting more money all the time. It's the game that they play, all of that. What I don't understand, not even a little bit, 30 years old isn't the 30-year-old that Joe Banner was here with 20 years ago. and society has changed entirely. Ray, I think you were part of the. I think you were here when we were looking at managers from the 1970s in baseball, pictures of them, and they look like Sparky Anderson was one of them. I showed it to my wife. How old do you think? Oh, he was about 70 at the time, 43. Like, times have changed. 30 years old isn't the old 30 years old. Hassan Reddick last year, while I didn't think he had a great year, I also think schematically they didn't help him out at all by making him go one-on-one an awful lot. I am so against this. I think you need Hassan Reddick back. I think with money and Howie, it's the perfect combination of doing it. Is Hassan Reddick asking for something outlandish? Well, nobody's jumping on it right away. So I think you're okay to readdress that. I just think it would be, as I said, egregious if he is gone. Need to get him back. Would be thoroughly disappointed if he didn't get back. We're going to have to keep an eye on how this plays out because I do not want to go into a season if I'm the Eagles with Josh Sweat as being your most proven pass rusher for this organization. Just not ready for that now. Now, the last thing I'm going to play from McLean, number 5, is that they talked about Vic Fangio, and John's a huge fan of Vic Fangio's, talking about the bones that you may have here to play for a Vic Fangio defense.
Jonathan Gannon ran a Vic Fangio-type scheme. Sean Desai was essentially his kind of protege for years in Chicago, and he ran a Vic Fangio-type scheme. So, I mean, the bones are there. I mean, it's essentially what Vic ran for many, many years. Obviously, there's differences in whatever there may be in terms of both coordinators that were here previous to him. But from what I understand, it's not drastically different in terms of, too high split safeties a lot of times. You're multiple fronts. They're going to sacrifice a little against the run because you want to avoid the big explosive plays. In terms of quarter zone is going to be essentially your base zone. So you have already in place a lot of the players. You're going to need a nose tackle. They have that in Jordan Davis. You're going to need four-eyed technique defensive tackles. You have that in Milton Williams and Jalen Carter. So the edges, you're going to need probably an outside linebacker that's going to drop on occasion. And you have that in Hassan Reddick right now, but Nolan Smith would be the obvious next guy to step up into that spot. Now, in terms of the talent for Vic Fangio, yeah, I'm sure that he probably wants the upgrade, but we've seen that now in the offseason, or at least they hope there's upgrades.
One of the things I don't love is that, yes, Jeff's right. They dropped Hassan Reddick back into coverage an awful lot. I'm still waiting to see a play that he made. Nothing against him. I hated him dropping back into coverage, but you need outside rushers that can drop back. Okay, they did it an awful lot, and I don't remember. Maybe out there you do remember. I don't remember Hassan Reddick breaking up a play. I don't remember Nolan Smith breaking up a play or making tackles 10, 15 yards downfield when they did drop back into coverage. I just can't believe that I think the most important thing of this defense, of this Vic Fangio umbrella defense, appears to be pass rushing, and you're on the verge of maybe losing your best one. I don't know, Ray. I'm at a total loss here. You say he's gone. You say it looks like it, and maybe people out there agree with you, but you can't agree with it.
No, I can't agree with it at all. Not in the slightest. I'm still livid about it. The idea about taking your best defensive player from last season and moving on from him when you're the magician with money and you can make money dance and you can make it all work out. You can't make it work with Hassan Reddick of anyone. And talk about, you mentioned this Fangio defense. The production for Hassan Reddick fell off when Patricia took over.
Yeah.
So really, when you see the disciples of Vic Fangio in charge of this defense, you see an incredibly productive year and a half of Hassan Reddick. The production fell off when you decided, for some reason in the middle of the season, that it was a good idea to turn things over to Matt Patricia. When you made the desperation call to go to Matt Patricia, that's when the production fell off. So really, when you've been within this type of philosophy, Hassan Reddick has been extremely productive. I see the way Howie Roseman justifies this in his head is that he brought in Hassan Reddick, who, when he looks at Bryce Huff, he says, okay, he was a solid rotational pass rusher, probably similar in age to when they signed Reddick. This is a similar contract, so I'm going to hopefully he's going to make the leap in production that Reddick did under this money, and I won't have to pay big time for the production I got over the last couple of seasons. The problem is there's no guarantee in that. And he also sees, Nolan Smith, what's Nolan Smith's ceiling? Probably Hassan Reddick. But that's his ceiling. his ceiling. You have Hassan Reddick here. There is no reason to move off of Hassan Reddick because, we might have a signing that replicates in production with Bryce Huff. We might have a player that can replicate that production or has the skill set similar to Hassan Reddick. You don't know that for a fact. When you watch him get double-digit sacks this season with someone else, it's going to piss you off to no end.
Yeah, I just can't believe that this is where we're going. I complained last year at the end of the season when they started dropping Hassan Reddick back to cover, and I said, you're taking your best defensive player and putting him out of position. Now you're just going to let him go? Tough feelings on this one. If you have them, phone lines are open. 610-632-0975. 10 o'clock hour. It's brought to you by Window Nation. Take advantage of Window Nation's 50% off sale on all style windows. Plus, make no down payment with no payments and no interest for 12 full months. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. All right, when we get back, obviously we're going to hit more on this Hassan Reddick stuff. Sixers, I want to dive into that last night. I thought it was a really good win, a tough win. But there's something that really bothers me with their best player last night. Ray, I texted you about it. It's a complaint I've had before. I'm going to complain about it again. This is the Midday Show with Bob Cooney here at 97.5 The Fanatic. Midday show with Bob Cooney. Glad you're with us. Hope you're having a good Tuesday. Worst day of the week, but we will plug through somehow, some way. Ray, I don't know if you know this, but in my life, I've said this on the morning show a lot, I do not put my feet on the floor until I get a good thought in my head for the day. That's my MO, and it's honest to God truth. When my alarm went off at 3:30, 3:45 when I was on the morning show, I would not put my feet on the floor until I thought of something good. Is that maybe a little advice I can pass on to you that's maybe something you should look at?
That's some great advice.
All right,
I usually just don't put on my feet on the floor until I absolutely have to.
Yeah, are you a snooze guy?
Yeah, big time.
Really?
Yeah, massive. Actually, I think I've been breaking records over the last couple of days on the number of snooze. Yeah, actually, yesterday I popped right out. I got to be honest. I was ready to go.
A new show. You were ready to rock and roll.
To go.
That's right.
Yeah, and then last night I didn't sleep, so when the snooze button was hit once or twice this morning.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was never a snooze button guy. I don't even use the alarm mostly. Even when I was getting up 3:30, 3:45, 7.5 years, I would say if 10 times the alarm went off, that's a lot. I wake up before. I just have that mindset that when I have to get up, I put it in my mind, and I wake up before I have to get up, and then I'm ready to roll. Yeah. So my good thought today was looking forward to this Flyers game tonight against Toronto. Should be I'm anxious to see where this Flyers team is. But first segment, we were talking a lot about the Hassan Reddick contract thing, and of course a little college basketball, which we're going to talk to Dr. John Giannini at 1 o'clock. But Mike on the cell wants to talk a little bit of both right now. Mike, how you doing on 97.5 The Fanatic?
Bob. How you doing?
Great.
Morning,
What's up,
Bob.
buddy?
How you doing? I got something I do every morning. I start with a video, like Jump from Van Halen or Photograph from Def Leppard or Turn Me On by Kevin Lytle. Unless I'm laying with my babe, then I'm not even going to get up. But that's what I do in the morning, every morning.
Wait, on your phone, you look at the video to get you pumped up?
Yes.
All right, I like that.
Jump, especially, Van Halen and David Lee Roth, I get up. It gets me down. That's how I start my day.
I like that. Now, I can't have that much noise going on because I have other people in the house that are still sleeping. So I just think it in my head. And also, Mike, not to get too off track, I wake up every day with a song in my mind. I swear to God, every single day I wake up with a song in my mind. It's crazy. But anyway, Hassan Reddick, college basketball. What do you got, Mike?
Greed. The guy's greedy. They fell off the way they fell off last year, the way Tampa put it to him. He doesn't deserve.
Oh, we lost Mike. Mike, if you can come back. Greedy? I don't mind players being greedy. They're there in a sport, no matter the sport, to get their money. They're going to get money, and if you can get more of it, go ahead and go for it. Now, honoring a contract, is that the moral way that we want to go down? Looking at somebody, Hassan Reddick, you still have another year left, and it is $15 million. Why don't you honor that? Okay, but we don't normally see contracts laid out, just played through, and then move on to the next one. So what he's doing isn't something that we certainly haven't seen before. But, Mike, if you want to come back, we're here for you. But it's an interesting situation with this Hassan Reddick. I put one word on it. If they lose him, to me, it seems egregious. Now, look, I could be proven totally wrong. If he signs somewhere else for 3 years and $80 million, then I would say, okay, I kind of understand that Howie didn't want to spend that much money. But money and Howie always seem to go together pretty okay. So I don't want Mike is just about back. I don't want to, agree with this. I kind of more want to say I think this is egregious. Mike, go ahead and finish your thoughts, buddy.
I'm just leaving the Eagles for a minute and talking about college basketball.
Okay.
I can't believe you're not into it. I'm going to go up to Brooklyn. The way the number one seeds went down in the tournaments. The kids play every night. They hustle. They try. It's not like the NBA. Do you know what I mean? I'll watch the finals if one of my teams are in it, like the Knicks or the Sixers. I'm not a big Laker fan with LeBron, but I'll watch it. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to attend. I'm not going to attend unless the Knicks or the Sixers are playing.
Okay, I may have stated it wrong. It's not that I'm not into it. Like the games, I'll sit there and I'll watch, and even though I don't know the players, I love watching the games. Mike, if you listen, you know how much I love watching basketball. The thing that I hate about it is my lack of knowledge of who's playing, who the best teams are, let alone the players for each team, which used to be right at the top of your head when you were watching the tournament.
Yeah, it used to be it's hard to keep track of. You know what I mean? It's a lot to try to keep track of. And I know you being an NBA pro man, you know what I mean? Because your controller said there that you were covering NBA basketball for years.
Right.
So I can appreciate, you know, the way you feel and everything like that. But I enjoy college ball. I enjoy going to the games. I had Sixers club box seats back in 04, 05. Then I got 2 tickets behind the basket. Then I got 4 more behind where I was sitting in the seats behind the basket. So I spent some money.
Yeah,
and,
you're a hoopsman. Yeah, thanks, Mike.
It was worth it back then.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mike. Look, don't not that it matters what you think of me. I love watching basketball. I love watching college basketball. It's just different. And like I said, we're going to talk to John Giannini at 1 o'clock to talk about the differences of college basketball, to talk to a guy that coached Division I basketball for 25 years and sees the difference in it as far as a coaching perspective, but also sees is there difference in it as far as the playing perspective, because you do have the one-and-done stuff, which probably does hurt the game. Where do you stand? Where do you stand? Has the college game changed for you? We're going to talk about that later on today, too. So I want to talk about the Sixers Heat game last night. Really a tough game in my eyes. A game that you knew it was going to be tough to begin with. Any game that the Sixers play right now is going to be hard because of all the guys you're missing. Now, that being said, we can't fool ourselves into saying that Miami wasn't missing a whole bunch of guys. There's Jimmy Butler over there on the bench, and Kevin Love over there on the bench, and Tyler Hero over there on the bench, and Duncan Robinson gets hurt in the game and has to leave. So there is all of that happened last night. And the Sixers, of course, without Embiid, Tobias Harris, DeAnthony Melton. But you got to put out there who you have there, and that's what they did. And I thought they battled really tough. Now, Miami was impressive. Miami was playing the second night of a back-to-back. Had a really tough game the night before against Detroit, wound up winning by 3. It gets to be the fourth quarter, and Miami loves to play zone, but they started to play it like more aggressively. They started popping out of their zone, double-teaming Tyrese Maxey, but then still rotating back enough so that it wasn't a 4-on-5 or a 4-on-3 situation when the Sixers attacked the zone. They did a really good job, and I'm watching, I'm saying, man, where are they getting all this energy from after having played the night before, having a tough game now? So Maxey's getting double-teamed, and all of a sudden, here comes Kyle Lowry with a couple of big shots, and Kelly Oubre goes to the basket and hits a couple of big shots. And you got it from guys that you're going to have to get it from now on. But here's the thing that really is bothering me, and it's a situation that happened before, and Ala Abdul Nabi brought it up on air while I was writing it down, and I was kind of pissed that he did that. Stop falling down, Tyrese Maxey. Stop. Stop. Why is this a given? Joel Embiid. And Joel Embiid talked about before that he was told to fall down because it's less I was always taught, right, as a player, don't fall down. Our coach would yell at us, get off the floor. Stop falling down. The only time they wanted us down on the floor was 2 ways, diving for a loose ball or taking a charge. Otherwise, offensively, stay on your feet. Now, I don't say it in a mean way. I say it in a worried way. Tyrese, I'm talking directly to you now. Stop falling down. If you go up for a layup and you have to double clutch and stuff and somebody hits you on the hip, concentrate on just landing, getting your feet on the floor, and staying upright. Because that ground hurts. It's hard. I've fallen on a basketball court many, many times. It's not fun. So I just don't know. I texted you about it last night. Is it as egregious when you're there? Egregious is the word of the day. Not to take something away from the best show ever. But is it as noticeable as, air quotes, frustrating watching it in person as it is on TV?
It might not be frustrating to me. I think that's more what it is because I could see it happening. But you texted me that, I think, during the first quarter, and I think my exact response to you is if he's going to drop 17 in a quarter, he could do whatever he wants.
You had a good one there.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I understand what you're saying, and I understand, you're thinking about, the number of times you fall on the floor, being banged up a little bit, and just, again, not necessarily being as focused on landing. And I think that's part of it. That's more the concern. If you're not focused on how you're landing, if they're making a concerted effort to fall because they've been told to fall or to hit the ground.
And that I can't imagine.
I can't imagine that. So if they're not focused on landing on the ground, that's where I get concerned. I want you to be concerned about whether you made the bucket and getting back into the play or wherever you end up finding yourself on the floor. But I also don't want you out of control to the point where you're attacking downhill and you're not worried at all about where your feet are going because that's where you end up, turning something or you end up landing on something. When with this, falling on the ground, and I forget who it was that went right into the not last night. I think it was earlier this season. Went right into the back of the bucket where they went.
Stanchion.
Stanchion. That's the word I was looking for.
Yes.
Thank you. Went into that, and I was like terrified at that. So those types of things, I can understand the frustration from you. It doesn't bother me as much as it clearly bothers you.
It doesn't keep me up at nights. It doesn't make me turn off the TV. It doesn't make me sit there and throw my arms up in the air. It does make me say, as someone who was taught and coached people to keep your feet. So we had a drill when I was playing where we would have a layup line, obviously, go as hard as you can in, and a coach would have a pillow or something, and they'd hit you pretty hard as you went in front, with the concentration being make sure you follow through and get the shot through first and foremost. Second of all, make sure you land on your feet. Keep your feet, keep your balance, keep yourself upright so that you could finish out the play better. I do. I get nervous with falling, with head snapping back. He's had a bloody nose and a concussion over the last week or 10 days. Yeah, it bothers a little bit too much. Maybe it's a little concerning, or it's something that it's like a song, or it's like people listening to us. If we use a word too much, and it'll stick out to you. It's sticking out to me. And it did with Joel Embiid, and now it's starting to do it with Tyrese Maxey also. But it's something we're going to have to get over. We'll take more of a look at that Sixers win last night. Also, when we get back, got to check out this road trip as we lead into Keith Pompey calling from the Inquirer. This isn't real good right now, and I love that they got that win last night. I really did like the way that they played. Can that carry over into a Phoenix, into a Lakers, into a Clippers, into a Kings? And then on the back end of that, you play Saturday against the Kings to finish up. You got to come back east, which is horrible. Going from West Coast to East Coast sucks. And play Monday night against the Clippers here. And you know what else that is, Ray? Monday night against the Clippers? Wednesday night against. I'm sorry, you play Monday out west. You come home. You play Wednesday here against the Clippers. That is hard. After 4 West Coast games, coming home and playing a night later, that is really hard. But you know what's great about that night is that it is knockout night, and we'll tell you all about that in a little bit, give you a chance to get some tickets to come see us maybe down there and play some knockout against us. This is the Midday Show with Bob Cooney. When we get back, a couple of Phillies things that we want to bring up. Of course, this Eagles, I do want to get in more to the Kenny Pickett thing. Hassan Reddick, if you have some feelings on that, because this is big. It's really big. And the Jeremy Fowler report yesterday, and then what Jeff McClain said today, maybe he's not coming back, and maybe it doesn't look good. What do you think? 610-632-0975. This is Middays with Bob Cooney, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Side perspective and your reaction. This is 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. This is Philadelphia's sports station for breaking news. Now, more with Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Welcome back, Midday Show with Bob Cooney. Always great when Andrew Salchunas pops his head in to talk a little stuff.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, he went into your area and threw a ball at you. That's not good. At least it's a nice beach ball, like nothing that's going to hurt you. You've been whacked already today once. Rhonda hit you in the face, almost knocked you out.
Yeah, I'm under attack here in this office.
I got your back. Just like you said yesterday, you got my back, I got your back, Ray. Whatever you need, whatever you want, I am here for you. All right, I teased it before, so now it's time to get into it, Ray. You know what's coming up. It is next Wednesday. It is 97.5 The Fanatic Knockout Tournament. It's back. It starts. You need to listen for your chance to win a pair of tickets when the Sixers take on the Clippers on Wednesday, March 27th. After the game, you'll head onto the court to battle your favorite or non-favorite Fanatic hosts in Knockout. Visit 97.5thefanatic.com for complete details and another chance to win. It's presented by Ferguson HVAC, your Delaware Valley Train Heating and Air Conditioning distributor. Visit TRANE.com to find a dealer near you. What do you think, Ray? Should we give away a couple of tickets because we were a little lax yesterday? Should we do it now?
I think so.
Yeah? 215-263-0975, 215-263-0975. We will go with caller number 10.
10?
10, because that was my number in high school. 10. You know who my number was, why I took number 10, Ray?
Because you were a perfect 10 out of 10.
Wow, that's horrible. That's just, no, that's not even it a little bit.
I don't know, man.
Because my favorite player was Maurice Cheeks.
Oh,
my favorite player of all time is Maurice Cheeks. Who's your favorite Sixer of all time?
Probably got to be Embiid.
Probably has to be, right? Now, I guess you didn't see much of Iverson at all.
No, the Iverson I saw was not the Iverson that everyone enjoyed, as the top guy. I know Iverson better is what I saw him as last night. The, figure for the organization that pops up the games and everybody gives standing O.
Was he there last night?
Yeah.
Oh, he was. I didn't see the part where they introduced him.
They played a nice highlight montage for him, and I was like, oh, maybe they're promoting, are they putting the practice facility for him?
Oh, yeah, the statue's going up I think sometime in April.
I thought they were promoting that, and the next thing you know, no?
Yeah.
He's sitting right there courtside.
I was over at the practice facility the other day. They already have some statues up over there. That's a really nice honor for him. It's always cool because when they do honor people, former players like that, a lot of former players come out. And it speaks to the organizational family that sports brings about when you get former players that want to come back out, want to come see him. I assume Aaron McKee will be there and probably Dr. J, and a lot of people usually are ones that come out. So we're waiting on a report. If you watched the Sixers game last night, now I will give this caveat that I said we're going to give you an update on a knee injury concerning someone in the 76ers organization. It was a happening last night in last night's game that we're looking to get an update on. Nothing too serious, but just something that, we thought we'd let you know about. If you watched the game or if you were in attendance, you might know what I'm talking about or referring to, but we're hoping to hear from this person soon. So we'll see how that all plays out. I thought it was funny. I was talking to some people with the Sixers yesterday. So they had a 9:30 flight this morning to go out to Phoenix. And I was texting back and forth with somebody. I said, wow, they got you going out early, huh? And he said, yeah, because we're practicing right after we land. Nick Nurse loves basketball, loves to practice. He's been described to me as a freak, not in a bad way, a freak that he loves basketball, cannot get enough of it. The only other person in NBA circles that I ever heard described like people describe Nick Nurse to me was Tom Thibodeau. A guy that doesn't know what Thanksgiving is, doesn't know what Christmas is, doesn't know what, obviously people are exaggerating to me, but saying that this guy's just basketball 24/7. Part of me loves that. Great. You're so into the sport and coaching a team that we want to see do well. Part of me is like, how do you do that? How do you do that? I mean, we talk sports all the time, right? That's our job for 4 hours a day and more. The 2 hours we're here before the show, the hour that we stay after and getting stuff together and watching games. Yeah, it's that. We do kind of have lives, though, without sports for a lot of the day. I can't imagine being 24/7 locked in on one sport. And I told you the other day, Ray, I went into Nick Nurse's office to interview him. As soon as we walk in, we go to sit on the couch. Boom, turns on the TV and turns on the Milwaukee Bucks game. The guy's addicted. The guy is addicted to basketball. And I guess that's the kind of guy you want for your head coach. We don't care about his well-being. We just want him to have the best product there on the floor. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I care a little bit about his well-being. I want to make sure the guy's, well to coach my team. But in terms of the fact that he's addicted to basketball, there's, a lot worse things you could say about an NBA coach.
Yeah.
I'm very, very grateful he's our coach. I remember last summer, that was like the entire summer for me. It was just waiting and banging the drum for him to be the head coach. And I'm glad he's here. And I'm glad that that's the way he carries himself. It is kind of crazy. I can't imagine. I love baseball. Baseball is my first love and everything. I spend way too much time thinking about it, but I don't think I could do the whole 24/7, in my brain on that. I think I would go crazy.
Now, coaches obviously look at it differently than we do.
Right.
They're looking for scheme. They're trying to figure out problems, decisions, how to beat this, how to do that. We do it specifically for entertainment, so it's way different there. I'm not going to be out-entertained by you by watching games. They do. They want to out-coach other people by watching games. So I just thought it was really interesting how Nick Nurse is just so wrapped up into this. All right, when we get back, we have more Sixers talk. Keith Pompey from the Inquirer is going to join us at 11 o'clock. I have some interesting stuff I got to run by him. We all want updates on Joel Embiid, on DeAnthony Melton, Robert Covington. Where is Tobias Harris? So many things on the injury front. But I also want to get into Keith about this road trip coming up, where the team may be looking, where he thinks the team is entering these games. This is Middays with Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Burlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station. Broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios. Powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. Coming up at 2, the best show ever with Tyrone Johnson, Ricky Batalico, and Jen Scordo. Right now, it's Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Hey, welcome back to Middays. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. It's the skunk beer of the week as far as days go. You get a six-pack, that seventh one's a skunked beer. Well, that's what Tuesday is. But we're going to plug through here. We got a lot going on. I mentioned earlier, I wanted to give you an update on an injury that occurred last night at the Sixers game. And it is about somebody's knee. Maybe you saw the play. Kyle Lowry going after a loose ball, goes over a table, and lands in the lap of our friend Matt Cord. Matt, we had to check in on you today. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you doing, Bobby?
I'm all right. I'm a little upset. I texted you this morning before I come into work, and I said, hey, love for you to come down and pop on. And you call me right away and say, my knee's messed up. What happened?
Yeah. So I'm not on MGK today or tomorrow. So I'd be in studio with you.
Right.
No problem. So y'all saw the play, and Kyle dove over the scorer's table. Well, when he landed on my knee.
Oh.
And I knew it was hurting, but I'm sitting down the whole game, and that was, I guess, it was 3 minutes to go in the third quarter.
Yeah.
So by the end of the game, when I stood up, I was like, oh boy, and it was all swollen. So I just went to my, remember Dr. Nick DeDoubley?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Dr. Nick did the Sixers ortho stuff for years back in the AI days. I got severely sprained right knee, and we're waiting to get an MRI, and they drained it. Blood came out. And,
they drained it today.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
That's fun. I've had my knee drained before. That's fun.
Yeah, and it's bone on bone, and gave me some crutches to walk around on, and put a sleeve on it. So I don't think it's that bad, but we gotta wait for the MRI, Bob.
Is there a timetable, Matt?
I'll wait for the MRI people to get back to me. I never understood why, when you go see a doctor, why they got the X-rays in the office. No one has the MRI. I guess it's more of an elaborate thing. But.
Yeah, it's anything to get a little bit more money out of you. So the MRI on the knee. I assume you can still get to now. The Sixers are on the road. They're not back till next Wednesday. So I guess you'll be okay by then to still call the game because we're going to be there for knockout.
No, yeah. If I was in a cast, I'd still call the game.
Attaboy. So, Matt, have you ever had anything – you told me this morning you never had anybody land on your lap like that. Now, for those who haven't seen it, Kyle Lowry went full bore for the basketball. Winds up – the table's only about 3 feet high. He winds up jumping over it. And, I mean, there was nothing between Kyle Lowry going full speed and you. Have you ever had anything like that happen to you before?
Not that straight on. And that's what made it so surreal, Bob. Like I was telling Terry Natcher, it's like it was in slow motion. It was like, wait a minute, he's coming right. And I usually try to catch – he's coming after the ball.
Right.
So a lot of times the ball comes our way, and I'll try to catch it,
Sure.
I don't even know what happened to the ball. Like, I just remember Bill Kennedy, the ref, just got out of his way because Bill would have slowed him down a little bit. And then he came right into me and Derek Hayes, our live entertainment director, and then he's on the floor, and then, we help him up. And, he wrecked my monitor was wrecked, the light was wrecked, all the Reese's Pieces and popcorn, everything we have there was just all spread out everywhere.
And people were talking about, you should have caught him and stuff. No, you did what you do. You pushed the element away from you as it's coming to protect yourself. I blame referee Bill Kennedy for not slowing him down because if you ever seen the guns on Bill Kennedy, he could slow somebody down. Bill's a strong dude.
And he's got no body fat whatsoever.
No.
Right? No, he's in shape. But, it was very just surreal. I'm like, Kyle Lowry's coming right at me. Like, what do you do? And then he was laying down, and we're like, I'm like, I thought, oh, my God, he's hurt.
Yeah. Luckily, he got up. He's a little bit younger than you, so he's able to brush those things off a little bit better. But have you had some funny stories? I know you and I have shared some things. But for our listeners, have you had some funny interactions in all your years on the sidelines there that stick out to you?
I guess at the time I forgot to introduce Karl Malone during the lineups. That's like one of the best. Like he was, obviously a starter, and we were introduced. It was a preseason game, so we're introduced. With preseason back then, we would introduce every player. 15 guys, and then we get to the 5 starters, and we have flip cards, and they are stapled, and his flip card got stuck. So I went from like Andre Kirilenko to I guess it might have been, I don't know who the
John Stockton.
Yeah, so in between, his card got stuck, and I knew right away like I missed Karl Malone, but you can't go back.
No.
So I'm thinking like, all right, maybe no one else noticed. It's preseason, and then we went into our lineup. And then all of a sudden, the lights go up, and he's coming down. He's like, where am I at find the announcer? I'm like, I'm here. Let me introduce myself to you. A 6'9" power forward, 15-time All-Star. I'm like, listen, Carl, your card got stuck. And I'm showing him, see that staple here? That grabbed your card as I flipped John.
He didn't
Stockton.
care, did he?
He's like, a staple? That's what I didn't get, a staple? And then the very next year, we play him again in preseason, and I made sure I announced him, and I wasn't thinking. And then after the announcement, he came over. He goes, "I knew you had it in you. I knew you had it in you."
I'm sure you have many, many stories. I know Steph Curry coming over to you one time and acknowledging how good you are.
Yeah, he watched the intros, and he was just getting into it. And then at the very end, he gave me a high five.
Yeah, that's because you're the best at what you do, Matt Cord.
Thank you, Bob.
And our prayers and thoughts are with you. If you see Matt gimping around the city, you help him out, get him some food, do something. But we hope you recover quickly, Matt, and can't wait to get you back in our hallways.
Thank you, and your new show sounds great.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Okay,
all right, that's Matt Cord, the injured, the day-to-day. I can't even label him day-to-day. I think he's like week-to-week maybe. I don't think he's going to be out there running on the floor anytime soon, but I imagine we'll see him hobbling over to his front row seat there, right at midcourt. That was you don't want to laugh because now I know that he's hurt. And when I texted him this morning and he called me, I did feel bad. And I was like, Matt, I'm sorry. You don't have to come on. Like, take care of yourself. And he's like, no. I want to come on. I'll give you a call as soon as I'm done with the doctors. But to watch and NBC Sports Philly, they didn't go light on showing the replay, right? You weren't watching. You were there. I would say probably 6 or 7 times they showed it. And then they started keying in on Matt and teasing him that he didn't. I don't know what they wanted to do because Kyle Lowry, I've interviewed, many times. He's a little bit taller than me, not much. But I describe him the way my dad used to describe people like that. He's a fire hydrant. Did you ever kick a fire hydrant or run into a fire hydrant?
Yes.
That hurts. So that's what Matt Cord had to put up with last night. But a good, gutsy win by the Sixers. Yes, Matt, we hope you get better soon. On the other end, thank God, Kyle Lowry didn't suffer any type of injury from diving into the stands or over the table like he did. But, that's the kind of play that this team probably needs without Joel Embiid. You're going to have to – look, there's very, very limited mistakes this team can make. And they had a few empty possessions last night, a couple of bad/stupid passes. And I can just feel it in Nick Nurse's face when they show him on the sideline. With the way they're currently constructed, you just can't afford that. The littlest of mistakes, a bad pass here, not seeing through a zone there, not recognizing a defense. Those things can't happen if the Sixers are going to try to peel off some wins, the way Nick Nurse described in our interview the other day. So, tough road trip coming up for them. They are, as far as I know, in the air right now, heading out. They're going to practice today in Phoenix and then start that West Coast trip tomorrow night. Okay, on the Comcast Business Hotline, Keith Pompey from the Inquirer is here to join us to talk to us about these 76ers. Keith, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. Congrats on the show.
Oh, thank you, buddy, and congrats on being who you are. I can't even keep up with all the awards that you get anymore. Like Sports Writer of the Year, Pennsylvania's just top person of the year, best person in all of NBA basketball. Like, there are just too many to talk about anymore with you, Keith.
Yeah, I guess they feel sorry for me or something. I don't know. Maybe they don't have anybody else to give it to.
Well, some people feel sorry for the Sixers with all the injuries that they have incurred this year. And, you and I were on the beat together for a long time, and this organization, I don't want to say they're cursed or anything like that, but it's just been a regular thing every year since you've been covering the team that injury has been one of the top stories. Is it just a coincidence to you, Keith?
You know, it's crazy. You know, you want to say it's a coincidence, right? You don't want to make it seem like, you know, it's like a Sixers problem. But I do think that it's a coincidence. But the problem is, it's Joel, right? I mean, every year it's like Joel Embiid's getting hurt, and that really disrupts what the team is trying to do. And then you have other guys like Cove and DeAnthony Melton. But the unfortunate thing is it just seems like Joel hasn't been able to stay healthy. That's the main problem.
Keith, do you think it's his style of play sometimes, or maybe all the time, that lends to him being injury-prone, for maybe lack of a better term?
You know what? I think, you know, you can say the style of play. I mean, you can say that he dives a lot. But a lot of the stuff just seems like misfortune. You know what I mean? Like, he's unfortunate. Like, you know, it's always, Markel Fultz hits him in the face, right?
Yeah.
And then it's this one. He comes, like, earlier in the season, he comes down and he lands on someone's ankle, you know, while he's trying to block a shot. You know, I do feel like, you know, when he was younger, younger, you know, he goes somewhere and he's working out for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they realize that there's a broken bone in his foot. So I feel like, you know, if there's a person who you will say, a picture of somebody who's unlucky, it's Joel Embiid. Now, again, you can argue that he does dive a lot for loose balls. He does a lot of other things that could lead to these injuries. But I think that a lot of times he's in the wrong place, you know, at the wrong time.
So I was at practice with you on Sunday, and Embiid got on the floor, and that was the talk, and you talked to other players about it. They all seemed happy that he's making some progression here. So I think that one is still hopefully last week of the season, hopefully the playoffs. I think we agree on that as far as Embiid's injury, right?
Yeah, we do. We
okay.
Do. And it seems like the way that the optimism is, it seems like it's possibly going to be a definite. You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
I haven't seen, like, think about it. In the past, and you've been around the team a long time, just like I have. In the past, whenever Joel Embiid wasn't going to play, we rarely saw them around the team. You know, yesterday he was at the game. He was at the other game. You know, he's out there. He's being encouraging. He's doing things. I mean, it leads you to believe that he's motivated and determined to come back and try to help them get over the hump a little bit.
So let me run down the rest of the injuries that the guys have, and you let me know what the timetable may be, because you have a far better feel being around the team every day. DeAnthony Melton makes me nervous. Where do you see that being?
Yeah, that's the same vibe. Like, you know, as much as they say Melt's coming back, I'm a little concerned about that one because, you know, he's played in 5 games since December 30th, and both times he came back, he played 2 games, and he couldn't do it. You know what I mean? Like, one was 3 games, and the other one was 2 games. So I don't know about Melt. Like, I know he wants to come back. I hear that. But I think that might be one of those things where you just might be best shutting it down for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I feel the same way, Keith, especially with a back, and that you've come back and tried it and then had to get shut down again. Okay, what about Robert Covington?
You know, I think Cove will be one of those things. He's out in a couple weeks. I mean, he could return. You know, I feel like, you know, Covington was an issue of, whereas, yeah, they did everything they had to, but Covington wanted to make 100% sure before he came back. Like, he didn't want to rush anything. So with that being said, I wouldn't be surprised that he returns, like, right before Embiid or around the same time as Embiid. Because, I mean, we're talking about a bad knee, but Cove's been out for over 2 months with that injury. I think, you know, he should be ready to come back.
All right, last one is Tobias Harris. This is a newer one, not the long-term one like the other guys we were talking about. But where is he, and what exactly is the problem there?
You know, Tobias Harris sprained his ankle. You know, it was funny because, you know, they had him listed as questionable for Saturday's game. But for the people I was talking to, they was like, dude, his ankle was swollen and playing, right? So you know that. So now it's like, you know, right now it was one of those things where they felt like, you know, he would miss a game or possibly 2 games. Now he is going to travel with the team to L.A., you know, Phoenix this trip. If he doesn't return tomorrow night, I expect them to play, the following game and once they hit L.A. And I just feel like, it was swollen before, but I feel like, he's, and Nurse even said it, he's a couple days away.
The one thing about him is that he is always available. People get on Tobias Harris for this and that, and I understand it, but that guy is always available. Those ankle sprains are tough, though. So looking at this trip, Keith, you lose Joel Embiid it's 6 weeks today. 6 weeks today, you lose Joel Embiid. That's where the road to recovery is. What's good about this team right now? What is there maybe mentally, physically, that's good about this team right now heading on this West Coast trip?
The thing that really stands out to me right now, you have to love the way Maxey is playing. He's averaging like 30 points like in the last couple games. And also I think the main thing is the leadership that Kyle Lowry is providing. Like that's a plus. He doesn't always show up in regards to scoring points. And a lot of things he does is like when he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he's directing people where to go, who to pass the ball to, things like that. Stuff like that, those two things stand out the most. Now, but the one thing that I will say that I need to see a little bit more of, I need to see Tyrese be more productive in the fourth quarter offensively as far as getting points. It just seems like what teams are doing is they'll see him, and then all of a sudden they'll start blitzing him and they get the ball out of his hands. Because the last couple games, he didn't really do much. Last couple games against quality opponents, he didn't do much in the fourth. So Kelly Oubre, I like what I'm seeing from him, and he's been extremely aggressive, right? The last couple games, Paul Reed kind of struggled a little bit, but I like what he does off the bench. But those are the guys who really impress me the most. It's just that I would love to see, especially on this West Coast trip, some more point production out of Tyrese Maxey in the fourth quarter.
And you saw it last night so badly that Eric Spoelstra had his team in a zone. He had the top two guards. Every time Maxey got the ball, just rush him and double team him, where Maxey had to get rid of the ball, and then it was hard for him to get it back. When I talked to Nick Nurse the other day, Keith, he said that he thinks that Kyle Lowry's shot is going to come, and I equated it to Lowry getting into better shape, his legs getting under him a little bit more. Him, Oubre, are those the kind of guys that have to carry maybe a fourth quarter when other teams are taking away Maxey?
They have to. They have to. And the last game, when you think about it, Kyle had 16 points. He had a huge three in the fourth quarter, and he had a huge reverse layup, right? So, you look at that and you say to yourself, like, that's what's going to happen, because people are going to, they look at him and they say that, hey, that's Kyle Lowry, but he's not making shots, so they're going to give him the shots. And I think the thing about Kelly Oubre, he has to roam, he has to be aggressive, he has to crash the boards, get put-back dunks, the whole nine, in order for him to do it, because that's only going to open things up for him. You're right. Those two guys are going to have to come up big, and that's just going to open things up for Maxey, because then teams are going to be like, well, look, these guys are getting off, so maybe we don't want to blitz them. You know what I mean? And then we'll free them up a little bit. Yeah.
So last thing real quick here, Keith, I'll leave you with, and it's the last question I asked Nick Nurse the other day. If this team gets healthy, D'Anthony Melton I can't trust, but if this team gets healthy, as currently constructed, are they better than the team they had at the beginning of the season?
No. I mean, maybe at the beginning of the season, the thing is, like, with James Harden, I like James, right? Like, I felt like James was a bad fit. But then let's forget, last year, James, when Joel was out, he carried him. Now, I think that the team has gotten worse since the trade deadline. And I get it. I know what Kyle brings. I think that Buddy Hield he has underachieved since he's been here after the first couple of games. Campaign can be a wild card. But I look at the guys that they lost. When you look at them individually, you say to yourself, like, all right, Marcus Morris, he's not a good defender, right? You say, oh, Pat Bev, can Pat Bev keep this up? But I think, like, those guys with Embiid provided that toughness that the Sixers had needed to go in the playoffs. and I don't see it. Even down at the Daniel House, like a lot of people, like, what does he bring? Well, what he does is he's a role player who runs rim to rim. He does things. He defends. He does a lot. And when you add in the injuries that they have right now and the stuff that they had, and Buddy Hield's not making shots, maybe it'll change when Joel comes back. But I don't think this team is better than they were in January.
Keith, always enjoy talking hoops with you. We appreciate you taking some time out of the day. We will be talking to you down the line, and really appreciate you coming on with us today.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Keith Pompey from the Inquirer. Some interesting thoughts there that we'll get into coming up after the break. Also, I have kind of a deep question that I want to throw out there, and it's about the sports landscape in this city right now. Where are we? We'll get more into that when we get back here. This is Middays with Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic.
This is Philadelphia's sports station for breaking news. Now, more with Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Now we're back. Here we are. Welcome back, Midday Show's Bob Cooney. Hope you're enjoying the worst day of the week, Tuesday. I guess I shouldn't label it like that as much. For me, it is. Well, not really. Every day's okay to me. But if you look at it as a whole, Tuesday, Monday, you're back from the weekend. Tuesday's just the day. Wednesday, at least you get done. It's hump day. Thursday, Friday. Thursday's my favorite day of the week, right? Did I ever tell you that?
Thursday?
Thursday.
Why?
It just feels like, to me, it's the beginning of the weekend because it goes back to my school days. I used to have classes on Thursday night, and then we would go out after that. And it was like, yeah, no matter what you did Thursday night and had fun, you're going to plug through on Friday, even if you were feeling a little sluggish, because you just did it. It's Friday. So Thursday, yeah, always felt like the beginning of the weekend for me. So I love Thursdays because I love the anticipation of the weekend. I like working on Fridays. You know, we all love our weekends, of course. So that's just the way it was to me. I got to give a shout-out here. Remember Gina, our sales extraordinaire person that used to be here, who we love and adore? She has moved on to, I'm not going to say greener pastures. I'll say different because I don't want to put down our company. But, Gina, we miss you so much. She's in the car right now with her friends, Cassandra and Nicole. They're listening, right? They say they like us a lot. So we appreciate them listening. We appreciate all of you listening to the new endeavor we have going on here on Middays. We hope you like it. I teased that I wanted to talk to you about something. And I want everybody out there to listen to this, and I'd love to hear from you, our beautiful YouTube people who disagreed with me a little bit this morning, didn't like what I did, didn't like my tease.
Yeah, I think they were thinking that there was something.
Were we wrong? I should. Well, I tried to make up by saying it happened last night.
Yeah. Maybe we should have went with the phrasing of last night the entire time.
Okay. I really wasn't. People are like, oh, he's just going for ratings grabs. I wasn't. I was trying to have some fun. I should have worded it differently. If I misled you, I apologize. I don't like to do that. I think you guys know that about me. But it was fun to have Matt Cord on here, and you know, fingers crossed that he gets better. But one of the things I wanted to ask our audience here, and you can reach us at 610-632-0975. Where are we as a sports city right now? I go back to when I first started at this station, and then we went into things, and you had the Carson Wentz, and you had the Joel Embiid, and you had the Ben Simmons, and then Bryce Harper comes, and it's like the phrase was brought up, the Roaring 20s. It's going to be the Roaring 20s with championships. That's how it was labeled. Well, here we are, 2024. How are we? What's our overall look at the city landscape as far as sports go? Is it a good outlook? Is it a bad outlook? Is it somewhere in between? I think there's a lot of ways you can go with this. Of course, you go individually with the sports because that's your landscape. I think the Flyers, it's a good outlook. Whether they are part of the championships that we talked about before, probably furthest away from any team that we have assembled right now of anyone, but maybe in the best spot or one of the best spots of anyone. Because I told you before, John Tortorella intrigues me to no end. I understand what he's doing. I really get the way he does it. And that can mean I agree or disagree, but I understand it. So I think he's got the Flyers going in a good place. Danny Briere and Keith Jones, look, it's still a wait-and-see type of thing. They know it. They talk about it all the time. What they've done so far has been interesting / pretty good. You get dealt a blow with the Carter Hart stuff, but you also have Michkov waiting in the wings. So I think that's an exciting time. Then you go to the Eagles, and you say, and I'm going in no certain order here, you say, what the hell happened in those last 7 games last year? I mean, that was, as I've labeled them endlessly, they were the worst team in football when the NFL ended last year. I say that without a doubt in my mind that I don't think they could have beaten anybody in the NFL, or I should say it this way. I think anybody in the NFL could have beaten the Eagles at the end of the season last year. That's how poorly they were playing. If you move over to the Sixers side of the ball, what's first thing that sticks out? Joel Embiid injury. Best player, maybe in the league. The MVP from last year looked like he was on his way to another one this year. Gets yet another devastating injury that takes him away from the team. You're looking at next year, you're going to have 2 guys under contract, and that's Tyrese Maxey, which they're going to have to do in the offseason, and Joel Embiid. Where do you go from there? Is that an upside thing? Do you think Daryl Morey can overcome and gather a team that's going to be good around Joel Embiid? Are there players here that have maybe auditioned that Daryl Morey, and I want to get into this later too, that Daryl Morey looks at and says, no, we're bringing them back? Is a Kelly Oubre in the plans? Is a Buddy Hield in the plans? Are there others? Is that an upside, or is that kind of, you're just kind of sitting on the fence with that? And then your Phillies. John Kincaid in weeks leading up and into spring training said, look, they're just running it back. And he wasn't a fan of it, running it back. And I understand what he was saying, because they weren't good enough to win World Series the last 2 years. And they're bringing back a team and saying, yeah, but we're going to run it back, and we think they are. A big part of me is okay with that. A big part of me is okay because I am a firm believer that winning championships is climbing a ladder, is climbing stairs. You have to first get to a playoff. You have to learn how to win a playoff. Then you have to get to that step of winning the ultimate championship. I think the Phillies got there surprisingly in 2022, as we all do. I think the next year they knew how to do it, but fell short. I think this year, those 2 years of experience of both having success non-expected, having loss non-expected, I think that adds up to a good remedy, and I think they're going to be okay this year, more than okay. I was on the phone with a friend of mine yesterday. I put the over at 92.5. That's where I went. He just got, on Sunday, went to Turf Club and got 89.5. And
wow.
He took the over on that, so he got that early. So, there it all is. Where are we? Are we good times? Are we bad times? Are we somewhere in between? Is there ever really good times in this? We have some success with all 4 teams. Everything I laid out there's good. There's frustration / bad. But where are you? Where are you when you look at the landscape of sports in this city? Do you think we're in a good spot? And maybe even better than that. Maybe you think we're in a great spot. But I'd love to hear from you. 610-632-0975. I love putting these questions out there because I love our audience. I love our listeners, our friends on YouTube, the way they reply and all. I just love talking points like this. Where would you put it, Ray?
I think good's the word. I think you can find both, the good and the bad in just about every organization. I think you lay out a couple of arguments on either side for both teams, or for all teams on both sides. But I think you have to trend good to where we're at. I think this is good times. You're talking about a baseball team that we have expectation of fighting for a World Series. You're talking about a football team that, despite what you saw at the end of last season, you look at the talent on the paper of that team, and you're excited about what they still can do to put themselves in a position to get back to competing where we expected them to do this past season. With the 76ers, you have the best player in basketball right now. And the health is a very unfortunate thing. And I think, we're going to continue to try and hope that he gets healthy enough for some sort of competition this year. But you're also going to be given an offseason that even if it doesn't work this year, we're really going to be able to kind of put your hands on everything to craft something around him because of the number of guys that are not going to be under contract after this year.
I think this is interesting exercise also because your answer, the way you said it, and for those that are going to answer, Mike, I'll get to you in 1 second. The way people are going to answer this, you can say good, but it can come out good. Or it can come out, I think we're good. And those are 2 way different things. So where is the sports landscape in your mindset with the 4 teams right now? Ray labeled it as, it's good. It's good. There's good things. So where do you go with it? Mike in Springfield, you're on 97. Mike might not be on 97.5, the Fanatic. I don't know what happened back there, but Mike wants to talk about the Sixers and where they might sit on this whole landscape. We'll have to see what's going on there in 1 second as soon as we get this phone line cleared up. But it is. I think it's an interesting talking point that I think there was a lot of expectation going into the 20s, and whether they've been met or not, no championships. You had a Super Bowl appearance, which was phenomenal. You had a run by the Eagles where they went 14-3, which nobody expected, which was really cool. You had the Phillies go to the World Series, as we talked about. Nobody expected, which was really cool. So you have those disappointment by the Sixers and just kind of a malaise with the Flyers that seems to be on the uptick. So let us know what you think. 610-632-0975. That's the question we're going to take into the next segment. Where are we as a sports landscape? Are you good with it? Is it bad? Is it a bright future? Is it just a ho-hum future? We'll have to see what it is. This is Midday Shows with Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Bob Cooney with 76ers head coach Nick Nurse. 975thefanatic.com. Coming up at 2, the best show ever with Tyrone Johnson, Ricky Batalico, and Jen Scordo. Right now, it's Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic, and 975thefanatic.com.
Welcome back to Middays. Want to remind you, 11 o'clock hour, it's brought to you by Golden Nugget Jewelers, where Philly gets engaged. I think Andrew was one of those people that got engaged at... No, not there. He's somewhere else. Never mind. Another Andrew. That's not this Andrew. I wasn't talking about
Plenty
him.
of Andrews have gotten engaged with Golden Nugget Jewelers.
I'm sure there has been. All right, so the topic we have going on now is, where is the landscape of sports in Philadelphia? We laid out to you, and you very well know what's been going on here with all four teams. The 20s were supposed to be the roaring 20s with different characters in play. We were talking back in 18 and 19 of Carson Wentz and Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid and all of those things. Well, the landscape has changed an awful lot. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it somewhere in between? Mike in Springfield, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's going on, Mike?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the Sixers and the Phillies, because I will tell you, as a fan, I think the biggest problem is wasting money, giving supermax or major money to guys that are the definition of mid. And I know the Sixers will have a ton of money. The Phillies have, in my opinion, spent poorly in some years. And I'll give the example. The two biggest examples in both where guys got basically incredible money and they're the definition of mid: Tobias Harris and Tajuan Walker. And if you look at what Tobias Harris makes, he had the Supermax contract. He's never been one of the top 30 or 40 guys in the NBA, right? You would never say, oh, he's guaranteed to be first-team All-NBA. He's never been that. He's just not that good. Tajuan Walker makes, in the neighborhood of a Blake Snell, or even if they had kept the money and saved it, and they could have made a move at the deadline to pick up a Scherzer or a Verlander as a rental player because you have the extra money. And I think Tajuan Walker is about as good as Kyle Gibson or most AAA pitchers. He's ever so slightly above 500 ERA in the low fours, but he has no playoff resume to speak of, and he's just not good. He's mid, but he's making $25 million a year.
He's $18 million a year. He's 4 for 72. Yeah, so he's 18. He's not up in the stratosphere of a Snell who just signed for 31. Yeah. I mean, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. I mean, you can make that argument. Obviously, the Tobias Harris one has been talked about endlessly. I think most agree. Was he a max contract player? No. Is he no good, in Mike's words? No. He's that. We talk about good, bad, in between. He's that in between. He's that 17-point-a-night scorer, whether you like it or not. That's what he is. He's a 17-point-a-night scorer. He's never going to overshadow a Joel Embiid and now a Tyrese Maxey. He was never going to be the one. He was never going to be the two. You were hoping he was going to be that good three. People will argue, well, look at his numbers. He kind of was that. Probably a great four. But that's – I agree with Mike. That wasn't the greatest contract. Everybody agrees on that. The Tajuan Walker – Ray, I'm interested in what you have to think on this, because I don't know. I didn't mind it when they did it. $18 million a year. Guy won you 15 games last year. Pretty much going to be out there all the time. That doesn't bother me all that much.
He's frustrating, I think, for a lot of reasons, because I think one thing that's been the biggest thing with him, I think for a lot of people early on, it's like his first half is usually solid. His second half, he's usually been gassed by that point, and that's tough when you're talking about a contending team, when you want him to be available for you. Even if he is just your fourth star in the postseason, you want to have him out there. So to be making $18 million and it doesn't feel like he's going to factor into a postseason run as much as you would want that money to go into, right. I can see the frustration with that. But again,
$18 million's
The civil authorities have issued a required monthly test for all of New Jersey beginning at 10:50 a.m. and ending at 12:50 p.m. The New Jersey Office of Emergency Management is conducting a test of the emergency alert system. Had this been an actual emergency, the attention signal you have just heard would have been followed by official information or instructions. This concludes the test of the emergency system.
I was out.
It really bothered me. If I look deeper into it, it probably would. So that's why I'm not going to look deeper into it. Sam from England, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks so much for calling in on our second show. Everything good over the pond?
It's good, mate. I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward. You're talking about city sports, and I'm saving up to come over. I'm really looking forward to, obviously, the summer game, and we've got the Phillies coming over, Phillies Mets. I'm looking forward to that. I hope one of you guys can come over. I'm enjoying the new shows formats. Both shows have changed over, so listening all day like I tried to. But yeah, Eagles off-season moves has got me buzzing for the new season. I know we haven't had the draft yet, but I'm confident. And the Phillies are doing. The Phillies. I know we've been talking about Walker, but we've still got two decent. Okay, some people might not say that about Nola, but we've got two legit starting pitchers that will start for a lot of teams. We've got hitting power. I don't know enough about the Flyers, but the other three teams, Sixers are going to have some good cap spaces. Like all the moves we've been making to try and build around MVP. I think all three teams are contending. Like every year in the 20s, the Sixers have been in the playoffs. Granted, not great. But the Eagles have been in the playoffs. The Phillies have a World Series playoffs. So I think everything's going all right for Philly sports right now.
So if I were to ask you, Sam, just in a word, how do you label Philly's landscape? It would be, Philadelphia sports landscape. What would your word be?
Promising.
Promising. All right, those are two good words. We have good and promising so far. Sam, always good to hear from you. I will send you a text. Hopefully, if I need a place to stay when the Phillies come to England, it'll be with you.
Yeah, that's some good. That's some bits.
All right, buddy. Thanks so much. Thanks for the call. Really appreciate it. That's a positive outlook. Promising and good so far. Okay. Others may go against it. Sam laid it out there. He doesn't really follow the Flyers, but if he did, he knows the Flyers are on the upswing. I don't know how else we can put it. They might not make the playoffs. I think they will. I said like 3 weeks ago, they're in. They're going to make the playoffs. They could have a collapse here and not make the playoffs. That's not what this season is about anyway, though. That would be like added incentive if they made the playoffs in my book, in that you have a team that wasn't expect to go anywhere close to there. And now you have a chance. Look, this is the playoffs for the Flyers right now. They're playing for their playoff lives. John Tortorella is probably teaching them on this. Look, guys, playoffs or not, this is your playoffs. You need to win games in order to get into those games. And then you can officially say you were in the playoffs. But they're gaining experience through this now. This is what this is all about. This is where he's trying to find guys that he can move forward with in this organization as they continue to build. We'll see what this offseason holds after everything is said and done. But I think in Forster, in Tippett, Konechny, I think, is a solid leader at just 26 years old, whatever he is. I like Drysdale. Got to get him healthy. You helped out your back end with him. Sam Urson has, in my opinion, now Egan disagrees with me on this. He thinks he's a product of the John Tortorella style of blocking shots and concentrating on defense. I don't know. For a first-year kid, I really like him.
Yeah, I've been impressed by him. You talk about leadership, though. Have you seen that it appears Sean Couturier is going to be a healthy scratch?
Yeah, so I brought it up real quick at the beginning of the show when I was laying out the synopsis of everything going on. Yeah, John Tortorella said, look, you're not producing on the ice. I'm not putting you out there. Until you show me that you want to play, I'm not putting you out there. Now, I've told you before that one of my good friends who had a son play Division I hockey and has been involved with hockey in this area for a long, long time is maybe the biggest opponent of Sean Couturier. I'll put it nicely. He can't stand him.
That's nicely.
Yeah, he's turned my eye towards the way he sees the way Couturier plays, and I wonder if it's the way now that John Tortorella is also seeing him play that way. But, yeah, it looks like the captain might be getting some bench time. So when we get back, we want to hit on this some more because can't wait to hear from you. 610-632-0975. Everybody on hold. We're going to get to you as we get back. Where is the landscape of Philadelphia sports right now? Also, there was a debut about a year ago, and we want to talk about some of the better debuts we've seen here in Philadelphia. I have one on my mind because Ray was the one that brought this conversation up, and I guarantee Ray doesn't have it in his book. This is the Midday Show. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. the spectrum. What exactly do you do here is the question mark that surrounds Nick Sirianni.
It's a medium that is a prisoner of the moment. You know, we are very locked into that moment. I'm not going to pretend like I wasn't celebrating, parading around for Sirianni year 2. They were at the Super Bowl. It's great. I just can't sit here today and tell you that I haven't had my thoughts changed on Nick Sirianni in the 365 days that followed that Super Bowl.
And it's fair enough. It just is. It's just fair enough to be that way. And that's what sports is. And that's what this city is, which I love about it. It is so reactionary. It's why I love coming in here the day after an Eagles game. It's why I love coming in here after playoff runs by teams. The reaction is just so great. Overblown? Sure. But that's what we love about this city, and that's what's great about it. Uncle Frank is on the cell. Uncle Frank, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, man. Happy Tuesday to all.
To you also.
Thank you. Bobby, see, let me tell you, my man, you made a smooth transition. You are a trained professional.
Oh, thank you, buddy.
So, yeah, I got you. Before I continue the content of what's inside my head, I need to ask, where are you there?
I'm here.
Did you hold on to the zapper, or did Andrew take it to the morning show?
That's for you to find out. Let's have a good call, Uncle Frank.
Yeah.
Bobby.
I got a zapper in my bag, Frank. Don't you worry about that.
Young balls, I got to tell you. So, Bobby, you mentioned, let me preface before I get into hoops and Reddick, if there's time. Like a morning routine you do every morning to get, right?
Uh-huh.
So, I'm a stone routinesman. And, it's prayer, workout, and I work out the music, and that gets me going. But I also send the girls, there's a scene from Pool Hall Junkies, Christopher Walken. I never saw them, but there's about an hour or 40-minute scene where he talks about, have you seen about this line on the cable, and you got to YouTube it. It gets you jacked up.
All right, I'll check it out.
And then, okay. By the way, flopping on the hardwood is not easy on the body. I owned a construction company 36 years, but most of my pains and tears, I need an ankle replacement. It was from running ball in the early 50s. So, yeah.
Falling down isn't good. Pain hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was a big win last night. Bobby, I don't know how long can Lowry keep this pace,
It's interesting. It's Uncle Frank, thanks so much. Call back tomorrow and tell us about Reddick. Is that what the zapper is?
That's what the
he
zapper
goes
is.
on
He
too long
meanders,
and you have to just like
zap him,
Yeah. I always laugh when you tell people, all right, you got about a minute to talk, and then they explain to you what they're going to say. Just hop into it. We can get ready to rock and roll.
I appreciate you went with you didn't even let me get the zapper out.
I got him. Yeah, I got Uncle Frank. Yeah, I know the routine. Love Uncle Frank
Love you,
to
Uncle
death.
Frank.
Love you to death. It's funny. It's like in my old business when you would have people come into an office and talk. My old business was writing. What happens when you write? You edit it. So you edit it to be concise. If people would come in and start talking like Uncle Frank, we would always say, they need a mouth editor.
That was part of the reason why I couldn't do the wording. Because I was always way over word count. I was not an editor's friend.
No?
I did not like no, way too wordy.
Yeah?
Way too wordy.
Well, that surprises me about you because you're not usually like that.
Yeah, no, I didn't choose to go into any profession where I'd have to talk a lot. It was just, kind of out of character for me to have a lot of words, but I did that when I wrote.
I was rarely, from time to time, asked to do, they used to call it enterprise pieces, big, long pieces on people, and they'd give you a few weeks to do it. Horrible.
Really?
Not that the finished product wasn't good. It would be, oh, man, that's due tomorrow.
Really?
I'm more of a MASH. If you never saw the show MASH, but I'm more in MASH. The doctors, they're like, you just patch them up and get them out and send them to a hospital so the real care can be done. I liked being a beat writer better because it was like a MASH unit. Boom, 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 boom. Here's the information. Here you go. I don't have to think all that much about it. Enterprise pieces, like it would eat at me for 10 weeks or something like that. And then I'd be like, all right, I'll finish it in 2 days. Magazine articles, I was the same way. I'd be calling 5 people in a day, getting my interviews. I need that adrenaline rush when I'm writing to get it, really going. And I'm in the process of putting together, writing a book about a friend of mine. And it's hard because he just died a year ago. But B, it's just getting and I have to do tough interviews and all that stuff. But I'm more of a boom, boom guy. It's hard for me to do a long, drawn out stuff.
The long, drawn out thing is my favorite.
Yeah, no, Anthony was like that.
Yep.
He wrote long, drawn-out pieces and wordy stuff and was great at it and all. But, it's funny. Uncle Frank brought up, how long can Kyle Lowry last like this? I don't know. He won't do back-to-backs. Kyle Lowry plays the game except for going over the table last night and landing in Matt Cord's knee and severely damaging that. He doesn't play that type of game that is tiring. And it's hard to explain. He plays... I hate to say this because people are going to equate me to it. He plays an old man's game where you know where not to exert too much energy. You know when you need to sprint. You know when you just need to run. You know how to get to places where you need to be without having to use too much energy. Why did you give me that? Yes, you're onto something.
You say this, and last night he was running the break. And he ends up bringing it out. I think he stepped somewhere, maybe it's from my vantage point to the left, and he ends up falling over someone drawing a foul as he's running the break.
Yeah, it was what's his face running behind him and knocked him over. The guy that went out with the injury,
Robinson.
Robinson, yeah. Knocked him over, and you saw the look on his face, like, yeah, I've seen this before. We were teammates earlier this year. Well, he just knows how to do that thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I turned to my buddy next to me and I said, "That's the veteran right there. That's a guy who knows." I'm not running this. I'm probably not running this break successfully because of my size and the fact that, the athleticism-wise, they're going to be able to stop me here. And also, I don't want to run this break. I can get the foul right here. We'll get the foul call. That'll be big for us, and one will be able to actually set something up instead of running. I don't think they even had numbers, but he was the first one down the floor with the basketball. I was like, that's a veteran right there, knowing exactly his placement on the floor to just draw that foul and let them get the ball in.
Yeah, he you know who else has a game like that is much younger and also a Villanova guy? Jalen Brunson.
Mm-hmm.
You look at him, it's not, you hate to say, not exerting energy. They know when to use their energy. They know when to save it. They know how to, and it's a left-hander especially is great at this, know how to get to a spot before the other guy. And it's just knowing it, doing it, and not having to use a ton of energy to get it done. Rarely will you see a Kyle Lowry, a Jalen Brunson out of breath during a game. They're just totally in control. The game comes to them, and they do it at the pace that they like. All right, is this somebody that you know from before, or is this somebody new here? Nick, the Chargers fan? Nick, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's going on?
Yes, hi. My name is Nick, the Chargers fan. Of course, I'm a Charger fan, originally from San Diego, but I live in the Lawrenceville, New Jersey area. So
all right.
I just wanted to weigh in on what Uncle Frank just said about Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry is a little bit older. He's not what he once was when he was playing with Toronto and Houston and all those guys. So I think right now, what Kyle Lowry is, he's like a facilitator right now. He's not a, traditional star, point guard like, for example, like a Jalen Brunson that you just said. Jalen Brunson's like a superstar in his prime right now.
Sure.
So I think, at this stage, he can only take them where he can take them until Embiid gets back, and hopefully one day, we can get another superstar, like a big name superstar. And then, because right now, at this point of his career, to me, I think Kyle Lowry is like the puzzle piece, until we get that big gap, and I think that's how I look at it. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
Yeah, no, it's a good. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it. No, he's Kyle Lowry is a guy that this team needs right now, and when they were looking to get him, and it was talked about that he was going to probably be coming here. I said it the other day. I said it to Nick Nurse when I interviewed him the other day. I didn't think he was a piece. I thought he was a locker room guy, veteran leadership. Hey, Tyrese, follow me around. I'll learn you the ropes. 12, 14 minutes a night, maybe. Nick Nurse thought the same thing. When I asked him dead out, what was your plans for Kyle Lowry? He said, not this, but now they need him 30-plus minutes a night. I think that might even continue. If Joel Embiid comes back, they make play. I think he's your 30-minute-a-night point guard. And Nick Nurse alluded to it by saying he is a great entry passer. and that's what Joel Embiid needs at times. Kyle Lowry's here to stay for the rest of the year in a big way.
Yeah, especially when you look at what they've got, the options they have in that backcourt. And when you talked with Nick Nurse, there was the conversation of, like Heald Newbray going to have the kind of the similar role where they play in the same spot on the floor. You start looking, okay, who else is really in that backcourt? Neither one of them obviously profile as point guards, but in terms of having guards on the floor, Maxey and then Lowry. Like that seems your options. Campaign has been nice for this team, but I don't think at this point you're rolling with Campaign for minutes over Kyle Lowry. Like he figures to be kind of the guy that can play alongside one of those guys, and if you need him to initiate the offense, he'll do it. But I don't see him in a postseason scenario being a guy that gets a lion's share of minutes when you see what Lowry's given this team.
Yeah, it just still shocks me that you went into this season with this team, which I thought was a pretty good team. You go out and go 26-8 with Joel Embiid, which is terrific. You're playing good basketball. You're getting to the point where the only question you have, if you're Nick Nurse, is should I start Kelly Oubre or DeAnthony Melton? And then the trade deadline comes. And then the injury comes. Then the trade deadline comes. All of these things happen. It amazes me that Kyle Lowry, at 37-year-old, is one of your biggest answers right now to be a player in this organization.
We talked about yesterday about Batum. Like, you could argue right now two of your most consistent pieces to your team are 35 and 37.
Yeah, and you saw it last night. He had one of those games where nothing pops, but you see the big rebound, you see the big tap out, you see maybe a basket here and there that they really need. That's the type of stuff you're going to get from Nick Batum, and especially more so from Kyle Lowry. 12 o'clock hour, Service First Heating and Air Conditioning. Get 0% financing for 72 months and a $500 rebate when you purchase a complete heating and cooling system from Service First. Learn more at servicefirsthvac.com. All right, we get back. We do want to get into what Jeff McClain had to say more this morning about the Hassan Reddick situation, because it did take a turn, a real big turn, it appears. Also, nice subject that Ray has here. Let's talk about debuts, because a year ago yesterday, there was a really cool one made, and we want to talk about some more. This is the Midday Show with Bob Cooney here at 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Maxey has a double-double in a W. I'm Ray Dunn. This update is brought to you by Silk. Feel plenty good. Shop wherever you find groceries. Silk's delicious plant-based beverages help you get a daily dose of goodness to help you feel plenty good. They're rich in calcium and a good source of vitamins A and D to support the health of you and your family. Shop wherever you find groceries. The 76ers fend off a late Miami Heat surge and won 98-91 last night. Tyrese Maxey finished with 30 points and 10 assists in the victory. The victory, coupled with a Pacers loss, puts them back into the 6th seed before a West Coast swing. Kyle Lowry was big down the stretch against his former team, scoring 5 of his 16 in the final minutes of the game. Next up is a trip to Phoenix as the 76ers start a 4-game road trip with a matchup against Suns. Tip-off 10 o'clock tomorrow night. An update on the Hassan Reddick situation came down last night. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reported that the Eagles pushed Hassan Reddick's roster bonus from March 15th to April 1st, giving the Eagles more time to seek a trade for Reddick. The Inquirer's Jeff McClain joined Kincaid and South Tunis this morning and gave his thoughts on the situation.
My guess is that they're just trying to work out the trade. That doesn't mean that there isn't any hope that maybe something can get done, but it just sounds like Hassan is pretty much adamant that he wants to receive a certain amount in terms of a new deal for what he believes he's worth on the market, and the Eagles aren't really willing to pay that.
If there's any developments there, we'll keep you updated with that. The Flyers return to action tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs, trying to avenge last week's 6-2 loss. Catch the live call that one at 7 o'clock right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. I'm Ray Dunn. Breaking sports news all day, every day is here. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Tyrone Johnson, Ricky Batalico, and Jen Scordo. The best show ever. Listen weekday afternoons 2 to 6. The Eagles, the Phillies, the Sixers, and the Flyers. We have you covered all day, every day. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Bidding farewell to winter is like a breath of fresh air. And speaking of fresh, our preferred pros are ready to bring a renewed sense of excellence to your doorstep. With spring just around the corner, now is the perfect time to spruce up your home and get a head start on your projects. And who better to help than our trusted group of preferred pros?
Bachman Solar. Solar is more affordable than you think. Receive federal tax credits and apply for 0% financing with solar solutions at bachmansroofing.com.
Metropolitan Veterinary Associates is proud to be the largest privately locally owned hospital in our region offering specialty care for your dogs and cats 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Generac is the name you can trust for automatic standby home generators. And Advanced Electrical Services Group provides sales and service to match. Go to advancedesg.com for your free estimate.
Check out Preferred Pros today. This paid
Bob Cooney. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Hope you're having a great Tuesday afternoon. We are 97.5 Midday Show with Bob Cooney here at The Fanatic. A lot going on. It's kind of, in our line of business, you're always looking for stuff, but, man, it's just being thrown right in our faces. We talked about debut before we went to the break, and the one that I said surprised the hell out of me was Michael Carter Williams. When he was here, when he got drafted by the Sixers, we went out to a summer league. I was just telling Ray, and he was playing, obviously, and he went up. I think Victor Oladipo was with the Orlando Magic then, and the summer league may have been in Orlando. My memory isn't all that great, but I remember Victor Oladipo going on the floor against Michael Carter Williams, and it was one of those games like, oh my God, that's almost like a man against a boy right there. And so I kind of had my wonderment about Michael Carter Williams, and then he goes out and does that in the debut that we talked about. But what was your you didn't want to give it away before we went to break, what was your most anticipated debut here in the Philadelphia sports scene? Or maybe it wasn't Philadelphia.
Well, the one that you left feeling the best about, and I feel like an idiot now for saying Carson was the one I was most used for, because the long amount of time we waited for Joel, and finally seeing Joel knock down the jumper, like him going end-to-end on the floor and seeing him out finally on the floor, that had to be the one you were most juiced for. And leaving it, you felt like, oh, yeah, this guy stays healthy. Yeah. You got something here. And it was, for me, that was like the shining light at the end of the tunnel where I was like, okay, look at this. This team's gonna have something.
I was covering the team at the time, and when Embiid got healthy and started practicing, you can't imagine the amount of phone calls where people went out of their way to call me just to tell me how special this guy was on the practice floor. Numerous calls, and people bringing it up over and over and over again. Yeah, I know you already told me. No, you don't understand. This guy is different. That one was cool. One is a fan, as opposed to take away from my job, was Eric Lindros, because there was so much build-up for that. So when he got here in Philadelphia, I remember working at the Daily News and waiting for it to come over on the computer that who he was awarded to. And when it came over, it was Philadelphia, the excitement of that, and then waiting for him to get on ice. That was awesome. There's a lot of good ones. Iverson, obviously. Probably some other ones like Michael Carter Williams that you didn't have much anticipation for, but ultimately wound up being very, very good debuts. All right, I want to get to the Phillies a little bit here. Bryce Harper, 2 games played yesterday. Everybody pretty much out there playing. One lineup had most of the starters. Another lineup had most regulars also, but not starters, and mix and mash and all that. But for the 4th consecutive game, there was no Bryce Harper because there's a little bit of a back issue. When there is something like this, yes, preseason, training camp, you don't want to put guys out there no matter the sport. Let them rest it up. Let them get it healthy. But Bryce Harper missing 4 games in spring training with a back that he's kind of had before. Now, whether it's the exact same injury, I don't know. But with the violent swinging he does, and now being moved to first base, is that more wear and tear on the body, being at first base as opposed to being on the outfield, where you are involved in a lot more plays? Where in the outfield, it's more of a to get ready to go. You're getting ready to run, so it's more of a stand-up straight position on a pitch. Whereas in the infield, you're down more because if it's a ground ball, you want to be down on the ground, not let anything get underneath of you. Where's the concern level?
Well, to first start to answer the question about outfield or first base, I think the first base move is sustainability. Well, you mentioned, you're kind of bent over there, prepared for every, play. I think they make this move with the thought process of this is going to extend his career.
No running, no long throwing.
Yeah. So I think this move is made with the thought of extending his career. The fact that they're making a move right now for him to extend his career already with that thought process was, I don't say alarming because I don't want to be an alarmist here, but it, makes you, raise the hand up of, hey, we're already taking those steps for him. You should. The massive investment you have in him, the game-changing player he is, you should do everything you can to keep him healthy. But that was a point of intrigue in this, and it's certainly not nothing. You know, when Rob Thompson says zero concern, I appreciate him saying zero concern. Whether it's, you know, the honest truth of the way he feels or whether it's just trying to avoid hysteria from the conversation, unfortunately, there's going to be concern that comes from it just because you've seen him miss time with the bad back. You've seen him miss time with the bad back a couple of times. And the piece from Jason Stark in The Athletic talking about all the different questions this raises. Well, if there's more time as a DH, what does that do for you defensively? Because this team has been sold as a much better defensive team, which it will be a much better defensive team without Schwarber out there in left field, with Harper at first base as compared to a Rhys Hoskins. So you're improving defensively when he's out there at first base. This team's built for him to play first base. And then taking this even a step further, when you've seen him miss time already, are there alarming signs around what you've seen so far this spring? I'm not going to tell you I read a ton into spring numbers. I'm not going to tell you that I don't think he's going to have a great season because, you know, in 26 plate appearances or whatever it's been, 23 plate appearances, he hasn't looked like Bryce Harper. But I think, again, I go back to the Stark article in The Athletic. He looks at the launch angle. He looks at, you know, he hasn't hit a home run yet in the spring. He hasn't done that in years. And he hasn't necessarily looked himself at the plate. Is that a product of just getting back into it? Sure, probably. But the fact that he is missing time at a time where you're ramping up and getting ready for the season, I'm not going to pretend like I'm not concerned.
There has to be. I don't want to go overboard on it. As I said, whether it's spring training, training camp, preseason, no matter the sport, no matter the player, if there's a tinge, hey, sit down. Sorry, we're going to rest you for a couple days. Let's get this 100% healed. Get ready for the opening of the season. The fact that it was something before, that it's his back, that he has such a violent swing, that's something to look out for. Quickly, Blake Snell signs with the Giants. Ray, disappointed, doesn't really matter. Where are you? Because I was an advocate for them bringing him here. He signs 2 years, $62 million.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, I would have been much more disappointed. I think when Jason Stark, and this has now just become a segment for me to plug Jason Stark, but fantastic, wonderful, all those great things.
We love Jason.
But him talking with Andrew down in spring training about, like, yeah, don't hold your breath on this. I think that kind of let the air out of the balloon for me, where I was like, all right, well, you know, I'll accept this starting rotation as the starting rotation they have and just kind of look forward to the season. So I think I would have been more disappointed a couple weeks ago, but I think I'd let go of that dream.
I was all for him coming here. I saw the numbers last night, and I said, no, not paying $31 million for Blake Snell. Andrew went on the morning show this morning and said, yeah, and he doesn't give you innings. Crap. I throw that out the window. You know how many more outs Aaron Nola, who we all think is, man, you put him out there, he's going to get you innings. He's a, workhorse. Aaron Nola recorded 40 more outs in 32 starts, same amount of starts as Blake Snell, over the season. 40. That comes to 1.25 a game. That's not a big deal. Like the inning thing. And if you signed him this late, he's probably going to miss a start or two because season starts next week. So now he has a chance to give you that 180 innings, maybe over 29 starts as opposed to 32. So the inning stuff wasn't something I was going to argue. That's crap. But I agree with Andrew. I wasn't paying him for $31 million a year.
Just to go back real quick on that innings thing. Over last year, sure. Over his career, two different pitchers in terms of giving you innings. If we're talking long-term to compare him to Aaron Nola, the long-term innings versus the long-term innings here, the 2 seasons before that, he didn't crack 130. You know, it was 120, 128, and 2/3.
121, 128, and 2/3?
128 and then 128 and 2/3 in the 2 seasons prior versus...
Okay. Yeah, he's had 180 a couple of times, 180 last year.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that doesn't bother me over a long haul when you're talking 32 starts and all that. But I understand your point. It doesn't matter. I'm not paying him the $31 million. Okay, when we get back, John Giannini's going to join us. We're going to talk some college basketball, the ins and outs of it, the good, the bad of it, because I'm in a different spot when it comes to college basketball. My son Kyle tweeted me when he heard me bring this up earlier, and he goes, what are you talking about? I love college basketball. I do, too. I love it. I just don't have the passion anymore, not anymore, this year for it that I did in years past. And I need maybe John to talk me out of it or tell me why I don't. We'll do all that and more when we get back here. 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
76ers hold off the heat. I'm Ray Dunn. This update is brought to you by Jackson Hewitt. It matters who does your taxes. Why are people saying, yeah, the Jackson Hewitt? Find out before it's too late. Hurry into Jackson Hewitt today. The 76ers fend off a late Miami Heat surge, 198-91 last night. Tyrese Maxey finished with 30 points and 10 assists as the 76ers held on to a big win.
97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Welcome back.
Coming up at 2, the best show ever with Tyrone Johnson, Ricky Batalico, and Jen Scordo. Right now, it's Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Premature welcoming on my part. All right, I apologize for that. Welcome back. Midday show, Bob Cooney, 97.5 Fanatic. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. A lot to talk about this week. It's one of my favorite weeks in all of sports. At least it used to be a little bit more so. Yeah, you got the college games going, the tournament starting, you got the preliminary games going on, real, air quotes, games going Thursday and Friday. And I came out and told you guys I just wasn't having the same feeling that I always used to have. So what do? I have to go to somebody that has been around the game, that has been a Division I coach for 22 years, that won a Division III national championship at Glassboro State, now Rowan, also currently an analyst for CBS Sports, NBC Sports. If there's knowledge to be had about the college basketball game, this is the mind to get it from. Dr. John Giannini joins us here. John, how are you today, buddy?
Bob, I'm fine, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming on. John, I felt horrible. You know how much I love the college game, how much so many of us love the college game. I felt horrible yesterday in my first show saying to the people that Selection Sunday didn't have the buzz that it usually had. And this week, leading up to the games, the tournament, first week of the tournament, for some reason it's not there so much for me. I had a lot of people agree. Why do you think that is?
Well, first, we don't have the local flavor that we're so used to. That's one thing. The second thing, I don't know, Bob, because the games I've seen and covered have been as amazing as ever, just countless upsets after upsets, buzzer beater after buzzer beater. And I'm also going to correct you. These aren't preliminary games. UCLA went to the Final Four out of the first four. VCU went to the Final Four out of the first four. A bunch of teams, including mine, went to the Sweet 16.
Yes, they did.
So the point is, these teams are so close. Like, if you're going to quibble over the 60, well, first of all, the teams playing in that are really around 40-ish in the country, okay? So you have the last four at-large teams. The last four at-large teams are top 40 teams. So they're not preliminary games, Bob. They're real games.
Yeah, well, okay, I used the wrong word there. You know what I meant. But when I brought this subject up, John, and said that why isn't it hitting home, a lot of people came back and said it's because we don't know the players all that well anymore, because so many are one and done, because of the transfer portal, all of that. What kind of an effect do you think that's had on fans, and even more so, to your knowledge, on coaches?
Well, you asked a lot right there. So one and done is not that big a deal. We're talking about, 14, 15 kids probably in the country. So that's not that big a deal. The transfer portal, now you're talking 1,000-plus kids. Now that is a gigantic deal. And the combination of NIL and transfer portal, you're right, it's changed everything. Now, if you're a fan, correct, half the players or more on your team are probably new. And there's going to be very few four-year players. And that is sad, mostly from a traditional point of view and the point of view that thinking education should actually have something to do with college basketball. So all that's sad. But if you still love your school, you're still going to have good teams, and everyone's in the same boat. It's just free agency. It's just like the pros. The rosters are going to change much more frequently, but the games themselves will be terrific. For the coaches, it's horrible. The day after the season, you have to meet with all your players, and a lot of them are going to leave. And a lot of times, it will be your best players because they want to test the market. This is free agency with no salary cap. It's free agency where you don't have any long-term contracts. The kids can jump year to year, and it's upheld by the courts. So everything I said sounds horrible, but think of where this came from. You have coaches making several million. You have assistant coaches making several hundred thousands. You have ADs making $1 million plus. And the kids that do the actual physical labor, as Charles Barkley said, free education is great, but it's not the big money everyone around them is making. And Wall Street Journal has done studies on big-time football. They said this is like 10 years ago. The average salary, if it was a business, based on the revenue Michigan football brings in, that on average those football players should be making about $250,000. And judges have said there's no business, and this is a business, with the amount of revenue generated. There's no business that's able to benefit from free labor. So it's just a new era. The money got too big.
So, John, if I'm looking at college basketball, and back in the day, it was the Dukes, it was the Kentuckys, the North Carolinas. We know who the prominent schools were as far as it came to basketball. Does the NIL, all the things that you just talked about, does it widen the gap between the bigger schools and maybe the schools that might have a chance against them, or is it kind of still the same?
That's a great question. So I believe it's to be determined, because right now we see more upsets than ever. You have San Diego State and Florida Atlantic in the Final Four last year. But this bidding war for players is only a couple years old. So I would think that the gap will broaden with the fact that the schools with, let's face it, it's mostly the big-time football schools and some in the Big East. They could just outbid everyone. But here's the counter-argument. No matter what the rules are, those football schools and a couple Big East schools, they'll always have the biggest budgets, the best facilities. No matter what the rules is, those schools are always going to have an advantage. And I hope there's always upsets, but I am concerned that NAL might make that harder as we move forward. And I also have the doomsday prediction that the big schools will someday completely break away and start their own organization.
So if we keep this local, because you started off by saying one of the reasons maybe interest is waning is because, quite frankly, no local men's schools in the tournament this year. If we break it down, take away Villanova, I think they're always going to be there. Are the other schools, the Temple, St. Joe's, Penn, all those guys, are they at a real disadvantage with all this because of just where they are as far as all this goes with other teams in their conference and whatnot?
Well, they can't offer the highest amounts of money, but they could never offer the top facilities or whatever the biggest schools in the country can offer. Where the problem is at that level right now is your best players used to stay because they had a good situation. But right now in the NIL, and let's call it what it is, in the pay-for-play era, they want to test their value. And I think the tough thing for the other four schools is going to be not getting good players and having good teams, but now when you're poised to have those kids back and get real good, it's going to be really hard to keep them there.
I was lucky to be around you a lot in your coaching career, especially when you came here to LaSalle. I wonder, you've been out of it for a few years now. With all of this stuff that you're describing, and you said coaching's really hard with all this going on, would you want to get back? I don't want to phrase this improperly. Would it be harder coaching now than it ever was when you were coaching for 22 years in Division I basketball before?
It is infinitely harder. I never had to. So let's also realize a point of reality. There was always under the table cheating at some programs, but it wasn't completely widespread. Now that it's legal, you have this new variable of you have to pay your players. That never existed before. You used to be able to be good without having to pay players. Some people did it, and they had an advantage, but not everyone did it. And I know teams that won national championships without anything under the table. But now that you have to do it, it's really hard. And if you're not at a place with a ton of NIL money, it's really hard to keep your best players. And that's what's most heartbreaking. You recruit someone, you develop them, you're ready to have a great year, and most of the time you're probably going to lose that guy now. And to me, that's heartbreaking.
Among the many lines you and I have shared with each other through the years, one that you said to me I share most often is you said to me one time, it's not easy to have a job as I think you say you were 50 at the time, as a 50-year-old where I have to rely on the decisions of 16 and 17-year-olds. And that rang so true into my head, John.
Well, that's been college coaching forever in every sport and at every level, but it's also one of the best things about it because unlike the pro level, you really do get people at an age where they're moldable and they're learning. And here's what's most sad about NIL. And I have, if you want to go into them later, we probably don't have time. Maybe but I have 3 potential solutions to this. Just the fact that right now it's a business for these kids and they're not having the time of their lives. 5 years ago, my guys had a great social life. They wanted to know what they were going to do for fun. They loved playing basketball. Right now, these kids are thinking, what can I get? Can I get more somewhere else? Why is someone on the team getting more than me? What if I have a bad year? Will I still get my money? It's become a business now, and I'm not sure the kids even realize how much fun and carefree it was before. They should absolutely get some of the revenue. But the way it's set up right now, I don't think is good for anyone.
Well, that's a shame in closing out because I was covering the 76ers the year that you took your LaSalle team to the Sweet 16. I was fortunate enough to be on the West Coast. I called my boss. I said, hey, LaSalle's coming in to Los Angeles. Let me stay here so I can cover them. Made a quick phone call to you and said, hey, can you give me all access? Like, I need to watch film with you. I need to go practice with you. I need to do all that. You were nice enough to allow me to do it. And the fun times that we had with Harris Adler, with you, with the kids, that's what it should be all about.
I can't think of anything better than college sports in terms of the memories, relationships, and lessons that it's taught people. It's been an amazing thing, but it's flipped into a business. And there are some potential solutions or ways to make it better, but we're not close to those.
Yeah. Well, they need people like you, Fran Dunphy, Jay Wright, to all sit together and find out what these solutions are to get college basketball. I don't want to sound like an old, get it back to where it used to be, but make it, as you said, more fun for the kids because that's what's most important.
Yeah, and let them have access to some of the revenue. I think there's ways to do it without this bizarre situation that the pro leagues would never have. The pro leagues would never have an unlimited salary situation with year-to-year contract. People could jump at the end of every season.
Right.
There's no sports organization anywhere that would say that's a good way of conducting yourself.
Yeah, not a good model for sure. John, I can't thank you enough for joining us, especially on short notice. I gave you a call this morning. Thanks so much. You're one of my favorites of all time, and I will be in touch with you shortly.
Back at you. Thanks, Bobby.
All right, buddy. Be good. Thanks. John Giannini here. The guy has an incredible mind. And it's funny, I know he wanted to go on and on and on about how he thinks he could fix this NIL. I was talking to Fran Dunphy over the summer because my niece goes to school at LaSalle, and I stopped in his office, and we sat down and talked for a little while. And to listen to Fran talk about his ideas about how things could go, how they are currently going. It's a new thing. Anything that's new, it's going to hit some bumps, especially when it's a business like this. But it's tough. I have to go just back to, we just have to enjoy it for the love of the game. And no, we're not going to probably recognize names because they go all over the place. And this guy's at that school now, and that guy's here. But that's college basketball, for better or for worse. That's the way it's going to be. And for a guy like John, who coached for 22 years at just 2 different schools in Division I, to look at it and say, man, that would be really hard to coach. That's tough. 337 wins he accumulated during his time. So John has kind of has seen it all. So our relationship didn't get off to a real good start, right? I'll tell you a couple of stories here. So LaSalle was looking for a head coach. I was put on the assignment to find out who it was going to be. Had a source tell me it was John Giannini. Make a phone call. He's walking through an airport, apparently. Answers. I say, hey, I think his wife may have answered, Donna, and answers and says, Yeah, who's this? I said, hey, it's Bob Cooney from Philadelphia Daily News. Just want to talk to John about the possibilities of maybe being head coach at LaSalle. And he gets on the phone. He's like, I don't know how you got my number. I don't know how you found me. Like, I can't talk to you right now. So, look, no problem. Okay, I'm just doing my job, whatever. Time goes on. He gets the job. I covered the team, this and that. It gets to that point of LaSalle going to the Sweet 16. And my boss was cool enough to say, yes, stay in Los Angeles, stick with LaSalle. It was kind of the story of, you remember it? Southwest Philly floater, yeah. So I called John, and he says, yeah, we're landing tonight. We're going to have dinner. Come meet us at dinner. And then tomorrow morning, come to my hotel room. I'm going to start watching film at like 5, 6 a.m., so make sure you're there then. Get to his hotel room at like 5 o'clock or, dark out still. We turn on the lights. We're trying to get the video to work on the TV. Well, we're using like the remote. We're using like the phone. We have no idea what the hell we're doing. But we finally got it taken care of. And it was really cool to watch not only a team from here, LaSalle, but an underdog get to where they were, getting the adulation they were getting. As I was sitting there with John, Duke was already out of the tournament. Mike Krzyzewski called him and said, hey, I need you to come on my podcast. So I sat there while Mike Krzyzewski interviewed John Giannini. I wanted to get out there for the listeners. Since I put out there about the college situation, I just wanted to try to get a better idea and no better, voice to talk to than to John Giannini. So we thank him for that. Okay, when we get back here, there's another Phillies aspect I want to dive into. A friend of mine brought it up to me yesterday. I'm going to throw it out there to you. I hadn't thought of it at all. And then I get into the radio station this morning, and somebody else brings it up. So stupid me for not thinking about it, but I wonder if it's a real possibility with your Philadelphia Phillies. That and a whole lot more here. 97.5 The Fanatic, Middays with Bob Cooney.
Fanatic Sports Update.
76ers hold off the Heat. I'm Ray Dunn. This update is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know the best rate for you is a rate based on you with Allstate, not one based on anyone else. Visit allstate.com or call for a quote today. The 76ers fanned off a late Miami.
You do that a million times while you and I are together. So my apologies out there.
I have to be a professional and just keep moving with it.
No,
You know, keep working.
I'm the one that needs to be a professional. You're in there
you
being
can't
the
tell.
professional.
Outside, there's no sign that says that I'm recording something. You have no idea something's happening.
No, there is a big sign that
No,
says.
it's not. When I'm
that
recording
one
something,
doesn't work?
it doesn't say on air when you're recording something. Only right now when I'm
then
talking
it wasn't
live on
my
the air.
fault.
No, it's not your fault.
Oh, all right
No,
then.
it just happens. This
Look
is,
at
you know, you haven't had to have the pre-recorded update portion of the. You're not used to that anymore.
I am not
It's
used
something
to that.
different.
Yeah, that is different for me. We
Right.
didn't have that in the
Yeah,
morning
because you
shows.
guys just decide to end whenever in the morning. You know, you guys just, we're close enough to the outside.
There's nobody here to reprimand us or anything like that.
The middays will start at some point.
Yeah, the biggest difference middays so far for me, if anybody, not that anyone cares, from working mornings, is one, trying to find a parking spot here.
It's brutal.
Because in the mornings, there was only 2 cars here when I got here, and it was mine and John Kincaid's. And we took the same spot every day because there was no other cars. And yesterday when I came in, it wasn't bad. Today, it was a lot worse. And I was actually earlier today than yesterday. But, yeah, I had to park, like, way on the other side of the building.
Yeah, you get here at a certain time, you might have to park at Manayunk.
And
it's bad.
My wife brought this up to me the other day. I've never worked normal hours. Never in my life have I started a job at like 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. It's like I had Sixers practices sometimes at 10 or 11 o'clock. I had to catch flights and all that, but I never worked drive during rush hour traffic. Never had a job like that. This is the first one.
What was rush hour like for you?
Yesterday wasn't bad. Yesterday, so when I would leave my house at like 4 in the morning to get here for the morning show, I could be here between 16 and a half and 18 minutes. Yesterday, I left my house at 7:45 and got here at 8:30. Today, I left my house earlier. I left at 7:30, and I got here around 8:15. So both days about 45 minutes. So that's weird. Driving when it's light out is weird. Waking up when it's kind of light out is weird.
Yeah, you're going to find out when everyone works remote because that's pretty much going to dictate your commute. I know Mondays and Fridays, I generally have a little bit more time if I want to, catch a couple extra Z's because it's not as bad of a commute. I also figured that out once, we used to have our 8:45 meeting in the morning. I needed to be here for that. So I needed to make sure I was here for that. So I figured out that Mondays and Fridays, I could kind of cut it a little closer.
Okay.
Tuesday, Wednesday, it also works for parking too.
All right.
But also Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in terms of commute is
I'm
usually
learning
much more
from
brutal.
you. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, my drive homes on Friday, I think, are going to be hellish come Labor Day weekend and beyond for the summer because I'm going over to Jersey. That's going to be horrible.
Yeah, it's going to be bad. Yeah,
But,
I'm anti-highway generally. I mean, you have to, so good luck with that. But for me, getting back to the city, I do not touch the highway.
Yeah.
At all.
All right. That's just a little insight into where we are. 1 o'clock hour. It's brought to you by Ferguson HVAC-Lyon Conklin. Attention HVAC contractors for equipment, parts, and supplies for every heating and cooling job. Visit one of Ferguson's counter locations in Bensalem, King of Prussia, Pennsauken, or Westchester. Okay, something came up with me yesterday. My friend Joey Merton, who I've told you about very often, Ray, gives me a call. We just right away. We don't even say hello. It's just right into sports right away. I started going over-unders with him. Over-unders, wins with Phillies, home runs for players, RBIs for players. And he goes, man, whatever spreadsheet you have there, it's exactly the stuff I was betting on the other day when he went over to the Turf Club. I said, Joe, I'm just doing this off the top of my head. I don't know. He's like, oh, these numbers are pretty good. Then a number came up, and I did a games played for a certain player. And he goes, whoa, way under. And I think the number was like 120. I said, why is that? He goes, he's not even going to be on the team when the season starts. I said, really? And this player that I'm talking about, I didn't even think of this, was Johan Rojas. And I had heard, like, on the fringe before that Christian Pache has no more, what is it, he can't go down to the minors anymore. So I have to hold on to him. My friend thinks that they're going to throw Johan Rojas down at AAA to start the season to try to find himself a little bit more, and that you'll have a different starting either left fielder or center fielder. I wanted to ask you people out there, and Ray, I'll go to you also. Is that something that was in the forefront of your mind? Do you think he's not going to be your opening day center fielder? Is your opening day center fielder going to be Marsh? Is it going to be Whit Merrifield in left field? What do you think?
I'm still thinking it's going to be Rojas. I mean, I still kind of believe that. I know opening the offseason they talked about, he could start the season in AAA. Like, that'll be what it is. And that's been, like, kind of something on the undercurrent of, like, conversation with him. I understand what they're trying to do, but I don't really think I don't think people are sitting here expecting Johan Rojas to be, like, your two-hole hitter. I mean, I think to put up numbers that a two-hole hitter would put up. Like, I obviously realize he's not going to be a two-hole hitter. I look at this lineup. No one in their right mind would put him there. But, like, to put up those types of numbers, everyone's thinking, well, if he can hit, like the 300 he did down the stretch last year. I don't think that's what they're looking for from him. They're looking for gold glove level defense in center field and looking for a guy that just looks respectable, puts up competitive at-bats out there. And for all the Pache, like, love, I understand, being out of options. Maybe you do keep him off the bench.
Pache love?
The way he got started in spring training, he became the darling of it. Because, you saw a couple of games, it's something different, we forgot about this guy. Let's make sure we don't forget about this guy again. Okay, he had a nice start to spring training. He's hit 250 in spring training. Like, it's not like he has had this torrid stretch that's like, if you don't start him in center field, it's a disgrace to this organization.
He's a career 178 hitter.
Right. Like, they might have made adjustments that make him a major league level hitter. I know he was a former top prospect, and people want to point to that as, like, credit to him. Yeah. I think he deserves to break camp with the team. I think that's enough for me. I think he deserves to take that flight from Clearwater to Philadelphia.
Well, if he's not starting, what's the sense?
I mean, I guess if you're looking at the bench, you're like, left-handed options. I'm not sitting here pining for Jake Cave as, like, the 26th man.
No. But if Johan Rojas is not your starting center fielder.
No, I mean Pache.
Oh, I hear you on Pache. I've said this last year. God bless him. Good fielder. I don't need a Christian Pache who's a career 178 hitter. Oh, yeah, he was supposed to be so good with Atlanta, and then he went to Oakland. Oh, my God, he was going to be good there. And that the guy is, I'm sorry. You can say, oh, it's only been 350 to 400 at-bats. Okay. I don't see it. I watched Phillies game yesterday for a few innings, and I see the hip going out to left field on a cutter going away from him and his bat not even being able to reach the ball on 3 straight swings. Maybe you're getting the same thing with Rojas. But you got a younger, probably a better fielder in Rojas over Pache, who's also a very good fielder. Are you better? I'm not a big fan of having the slappy hitters in left field and center field, which would be Marsh and / Rojas Pache. I might like best Merrifield in left and Marsh in center.
What do you mean slappy hitters?
Marsh isn't giving you home runs. Rojas
is not going to be slugging for you.
He was an all-star last year. He's going to.
He was an all-star because he's hit 300.
If he's a starting left fielder in Citizens Bank Park for this team, I don't know. I think he's an 18 to 20, 22 home run guy.
I'll take the under on that.
Yeah,
I'll take the under.
All right.
Like
who would be your starting outfield?
I think you're going, like, part of this offseason for me was I would have liked to see some more pop in the outfield. I wanted something in that regard.
All right, so we agree on that.
Ultimately, that's not how their offseason went.
No.
And I think it's Marsh, Rojas, and Castellanos. I mean, they wanted to be more dynamic in the field, and I think they valued that a little bit more this season, and I think they like what they have in Rojas. I think Marsh is one that I'm concerned regression-wise a little bit in terms of the season he had last year. I think you saw early on I liked the approach. I think he got away from it later in the season. I think he sort of found it again by the end of the season. I think, batting average, balls in play, like, I don't know if that's sustainable for him. He every time, I think it was 4 out of 10 times he put the ball in play, he was getting a base knock. Like, I don't know if that's sustainable for him. He's one that I'm concerned about. So I could see, I understand why you look at left field, you look at center field, you're like, wow, what do they have in terms of hitting? But I don't think Whit Merrifield stepping in here and changing my mind on who should start.
Yeah, you're right. He had close to 11 home runs at the All-Star break last year and didn't hit another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wound up hitting 272. I think he was like at 312. So he fell off. And that's the second half of the season.
Overexposure is what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, they had some injuries. He ended up in the lineup too much, and I think that was part of what it was. I think he's actually in a role right now that could maximize him. And I think that the Phillies, they need someone with that type of flexibility in terms of playing the field. And if you're looking at a dynamic in the lineup where you don't want what you've had in so many guys, the 3 true outcomes and all that wonderful new age baseball stuff, He's a guy that I think gives you a little bit of the old school, I'm just going to have a single or two every day, and I'm going to do that for you. I'm going to hit close to 300 at his best.
How many at-bats do we have to get from a Whit Merrifield this year?
Ooh.
I mean, is it a guy that you have to throw in there 3 out of the 7 days a week, a concentrated effort? Is it something that you let it play out, give him a game here and there, and then if somebody gets hurt, he can almost plug and play almost at any position? How do you go about, now he's 34 years old now, 35 years old, whatever. I still think he's probably one of your better hitters.
He's probably a 2 to 3 day a week, but I'm not forcing him into the line.
Okay.
I do think it's going to be a level of comfortability with lefties for both Marsh and Stott. And I think I'm more comfortable with Stott against lefties than they've shown you in the past with, him playing. I would prefer to see him just every day out there and, let that happen. But I think Merrifield also offers you the sense of security that if Rojas does, hit 150 and you're like, these are not competitive at bats. This is not a major league level hitter at this moment. If you do want to make that move off, you can put Marsh out there in center and move Merrifield in the left and make that call. And you're not totally altering the balance of the lineup too much, because he's going to give you, I guess, really what you would hope you would get from Rojas in the 9-hole. Like, you hope that Rojas isn't hitting what you would expect from Merrifield, but isn't, again, just a non-factor.
How much patience do you have in Rojas? Limitless? It could be unlimited.
No, I don't think it's limited. I don't think it's unlimited. I think it's a feel of how he's killing you in times. Like if
you're winning games 8-2 and he's 0 for 4 or 5, you don't care.
If I'm like 6 weeks into it and he hasn't given me really anything competitively, I'm going to start to make the question. If you get to the end of May and you haven't given me anything, it's going to be time for a change. Like, I think I'm 6 weeks to 2 months, I think, into the season.
Okay.
Because I want to see him pitching. I want to see how he reacts to it. It's tougher with the new, more balanced schedule. If he's going to see guys time and time again, how will he react to them later on? Because that'll be a question for me as they adjust to him. Was he going to be able to adjust to them? But I think, for me, probably 6 weeks to 2 months.
All right, fair enough. And I don't mind patience there. I would like a little bit more pop out of my combination of left field and center fielder, like you said. All right, I got an interesting text here from our friend Eddie Barkowitz, who's going to join us on Thursday to talk about sports betting. He's got such great knowledge there. But I guess he grabbed this tweet from somewhere else. Excuse me. Flyers are expected to have healthy scratch tonight for Sean Couturier, Cam Atkinson, and Mark Stahl. 3 veterans that are being healthy scratched tonight. John Tortorella ain't happy right now with his team. So kind of odd. The big C goes on to Sean Couturier, and he's going to wear that up in the press box tonight. So different times. Haley came in earlier. One of her friends that was down at Flyers skate around this morning said that I guess they talked to Couturier or whatever and said he wasn't happy. Probably won't rock the ship, but he wasn't all that happy. So interesting goings-on with Coach Tortorella. We'll see how that all plays out. When we get back, we're going to wrap up today's show. Still a couple of little things I want to throw out there toward you. Make your head spin just a little bit. Come back and join us here. Midday show, Bob Cooney, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson, Ricky Batalico, and Jen Scordo. The best show ever. Listen weekday afternoons 2 to 6. The Eagles, the Phillies, the Sixers, and the Flyers. We have you covered all day, every day. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
In today's transaction-driven world, the power of relationships often goes unnoticed. At BCA, we understand that true success isn't measured solely by profits or numbers, but by the connections we build and nurture. It's about the people we surround ourselves with, the bonds we form, and the trust we develop over time. It's in these relationships that we find the strength to overcome challenges, the support to achieve our goals.
Wrap things up, hand it off to the best show ever. Tyrone, Ricky, and Jen getting ready for you right now. Ray, a question for you. Are you playing Knockout next Wednesday?
Oh, yes, I am.
Oh, well, listen to that. He's coming in hard. Oh, yes, I am. So I have had Pat Egan teasing me for years. Oh, you're supposed to play basketball and all this, but you never play Knockout. And he gets on me and on. I'm like, all right, dude, when you're not pulling it, like, okay. Whatever. I haven't played basketball in a little while, and in case you haven't noticed, like, college days were pretty far behind the last time I played. Well, that's not true. I played competitive ball up until I was 38, until I broke my second ankle, and my wife told me that I needed to retire. So I did that. But Pat got on me so badly, like, oh, yeah, I don't think you can even play anymore. You know what I'm doing? I'm playing, Ray.
No way.
And you know what I'm doing? I'm getting right behind Pat Egan's little ass in line at Knockout come next Wednesday night, because I'm going to knock him out first and foremost. Yes, I was going to put my daughter behind him. She's had great success. She's knocked out Jamie Lynch the last 2 years. Jamie won't be there on Wednesday, so I'll give her another target. It might be you.
Come on, man.
It might be Connor.
That's a good target.
That probably is
a great target.
But you know what? I'm in such a good mood right now, Ray. I'm going to give away some more passes to Knockout. That's right, because all you have to do is win a pair of tickets to see the Sixers take on the Clippers on Wednesday, March 27th, a week from tomorrow. After the game, you get to go onto the court and battle your favorite or non-favorite hosts in Knockout. Visit 975thefanatic.com for complete details and another chance to win. It's all presented by Ferguson HVAC, your Delaware Valley Train Heating and Air Conditioning distributor. Visit TRANE.com to find a dealer near you. Ray, lucky 7 is a great number. 7th caller, 215-263-0975. 215-263-0975. You get to go to Knockout and watch the Sixers and the Clippers.
So I'm so glad you said this, because a big thing I did last year was one of the things I was known for early on my time working around here.
Oh, you've been known for something.
I did the Fanatic Knockout odds last year. Now, I did not know you were participating, and lucky for you, the odds are being written today. So now you will be included in said odds.
Do you need to know, like, my free throw percentage in high school and college or anything like that? Or
nope.
Nothing?
No.
No, I don't need to bring in the scrapbook to show you, or...
I mean, you can. I will look at it.
I will not.
But it won't have anything to do with the odds.
My scrapbook, I brought this up a few times, is so old and decrepit, I don't know if it could make the trip. My wife carried it across because she found it in her office. She carried it from one spot to another in our house, and it, like, made litter all over the floor because it's just, like, falling apart so badly. But, yeah, that'll be fun. And, you know, you can't neglect to say, a great game. You got the Clippers coming in. You got James Harden coming in. What was the story last year when we did Knockout? Was it Harden's debut with the Sixers?
2 years ago was
2 years
debut.
ago. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, 2 years ago, obviously. Yeah. So that's interesting. Lot going on. And I can't wait to get behind Pat Egan, who is now hosting at nighttime. 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Check him out whenever there's not a Flyers or Sixers game on here at our station.
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night he'll be on.
Leading into Sixers and Suns.
Oh, yeah, because that's a late game tomorrow night.
That's right.
Yeah, so all good stuff going on there. Flyers host the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. I just read you the news that it looks like the captain, Sean Couturier, is going to be a scratch. Cam Atkinson also going to be a scratch, and he's had that happen many times. Is there a message here with John Tortorella? Is it too late in the season to give a message? Is it as simple as, hell, they're not playing good. Why would I put guys out there that aren't playing good? I don't know. You're in kind of a playoff push here, and it's a little late to be, like, sending messages. What do you think, Ray?
I'm hard-pressed to believe he's not doing something with it, without meaning behind it. You know, if you're not playing well, you're not going to play for me.
Yeah, but if you have to win games, wouldn't you rather have a Sean Couturier out there with the hopes of, okay, maybe he could turn it around than, I don't know, someone you just called up from the Lehigh Valley Phantoms? It's weird.
You would think. Like, I can't tell you that I'm, like, sitting here thrilled with the idea of what's happening. To me, it probably signals there's something behind the scenes of frustration there for on one side or the other with performance or the dynamic in which one is taking to what he wants to see out there on the ice.
See, this is what intrigues me about him. You can look at him and be like, oh, what the hell's this guy doing? I don't. I'm looking for the next answer. I can't wait till after the game tonight when he explains himself or decides not to. This is the stuff that really intrigues me about John Tortorella. So we'll see how that all plays out. Until tomorrow, get ready. You have the best show ever coming up. Tyrone, Ricky, and Jen. So much to talk about with the Eagles, the Sixers, the Flyers, the Phillies. They're going to take you through to the 6 o'clock hour. Ray, another great job by you today. It's closing time, Ray. It's close to 2 o'clock, so we got to get out of here. We will do it all again tomorrow. Check us out, 10 o'clock, here on the Midday Show with Bob Cooney.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Maxey gets a double-double in a W. I'm Ray Dunn. This update is brought to you by Mattress Firm. Spread the word. You can score bonus savings on better sleep during Mattress Firm's Friends and Family Sale. Hurry in to save up to $700 with your extra discount, plus get a free adjustable base on select beds. The 76ers fended off a late Miami Heat surge, won 98-91 last night as Tyrese Maxey finished with 30 points and 10 assists.